Welcome, and I guess I'll call the forum the order here. And for those of you, hang on one sec. For those of you who don't know me, my name's Sean Renier. I am the chairman of the Lee Select Board, and over the last couple months or so, we've had quite a few people in town and out of town come to us with some concerns and some just wanted to know what's going on with these smart meters that Eversource has started to, and I'm not sure if they've finished yet, but in Lee at least they've started to switch out these meters, for, the old meters for the new ones. And with that discussion that we've had as a town, we decided to bring an Eversource representative here tonight and a couple other people to give us some information, tell us about these smart meters, what's going on, and everything involved in them. And so, with all that said, I will get the ball rolling with our first presenter from Eversource, and this is Jared Lawrence. So. Thank you for coming here, and you need to plug this in. So let me switch this out for you. I think this is right. Thank you.
Okay. When I did this before, it took about. Oh, that was much quicker this time. I guess it got much more. Yeah. All right, we're rolling here. Well, thank you everybody for coming out tonight. It is a real privilege to be here. My name is Jared Lawrence. I'm Senior Vice President and Chief Customer Officer at Eversource, and I love talking about smart meters. And as we kind of go through this, I'm going to explain why. So really it was, even though my office is about 2.5 hours away down in Westwood at the other end of the turnpike, I was actually looking forward to this meeting the entire drive up because, again, I really am excited about smart meters. And I want to tell you why I'm excited about smart meters. We, in the utility business, every day we come to work investing in things to make our service to you more reliable, better performing, et cetera. But most of the things that we do, you can't really see. It's usually, modernizing a piece of equipment that's just that needs to be replaced, or upgrading a little piece of technology that you're not going to see. Smart meters are one of those few innovations in the utility space that you immediately will see direct benefits. You will immediately see a transformation in your utility experience. And for that reason, that's why I'm so excited about this, and it's one of the reasons why I joined Eversource 4 years ago. One of the other things I'll talk about is that I've been in the utility business for 24 years. Prior to coming to Eversource, I was at another major utility where for 4 years I was responsible for 8 million smart meters, and just the amount of positive reception that we received around the customer experience with smart meters has just really made me excited to come and be part of this project here at Eversource. So basically, what I'm going to cover today in my 20 minutes here, and I'm going to do my best to hit my time limit here because I can get really excited about talking about these things, is I'm just going to give you a quick overview of smart meters and the AMI technology that they underpin. I'm going to explain to you the benefits of AMI, why I'm so excited about it, and then because some of you have expressed an interest in potentially opting out of smart meters, we're going to talk about what that will cost. So one of the things that I really want to drive home here is that smart meters are so transformational to the customer experience in the utility space because it gives you more insights and it gives you more control. So it would be, it would be disingenuous of us to come in here and say that smart meters are going to give you more control and then tell you that you don't have a choice, you have to take one. So my goal here today is I'm hoping that I will be able to articulate the value of these and get you excited about them. But if you don't, then my goal is to explain to you why we have to charge a fee if you decide that you don't want to participate in the AMI smart meter program. So I'll cover that, and then we'll just summarize here, and then I guess at the end we're going to do Q&A. So First of all, what is a smart meter? The smart meter is the technology that underpins the AMI network, and I'm going to talk more about the AMI network on the next slide. But basically, it replaces the meter that's currently on your house, and it captures information about your usage. It will capture 15-minute interval data for most customers. For larger customers, we'll actually capture that data a little bit more granularly. It also captures information about your voltage. So are we providing good quality service to you? The other thing that it does too, which we were talking about with some of the select board members beforehand here, is that it has some safety features. So today, if there's a problem in your meter socket, which is a piece of equipment that you as the homeowner own, and it's potentially causing some small arcing, which could cause a fire, there's nothing in the current device that can detect that kind of issue. These new smart meters have a temperature sensor which will allow us to detect any problems that are going on inside that meter socket and notify us to get a technician out there to take a look at it and potentially save an unsafe situation for you. There are also some other diagnostic flags that we capture as well to make sure that we're, again, providing you good service and we're not seeing any unsafe conditions or any other problems with the service being delivered to your home. The one thing that we do not collect is customer identifying information. None of that is broadcast over our AMI network. So I want to drive that home. And then the other thing I want to drive home to is that these meters are UL listed, Underwriters Laboratories listed as safe and secure. I mentioned that I was responsible for 8 million meters, smart meters in my old job before coming to Eversource. The other thing that I want you to understand is that we as a company, and me personally, we put safety, the health and safety of our employees and the health and safety of our customers first. And I would not be standing here with you today if during all of my experience with smart meters, I ever saw a single safety issue that gave me concern about the technology. So I'm here to you today to tell you that based on my vast experience with smart meters, I have seen them be nothing but 100% safe for our customers. And that's one of the reasons why we really want to stress the certification that these devices receive. And the final point too is that even though these meters are capturing data throughout the day, they typically only transmit the data to the backhaul once a day. And so it's only typically sending data across the network about 60 seconds per day on average. Now that can range just depending on the conditions at your particular home, but on average these meters are only broadcasting your data 60 seconds per day. So I mentioned that the smart meter is kind of the end point of the AMI network. And just to give you a sense of how this works, when we install the AMI meters, they form a mesh. And it creates really a reliable communications network that allows multiple paths to get the data coming from your meter into what we call our access points, which are essentially cellular devices that capture data from all the meters that they can hear. And then they communicate it back over the cellular network to our back office systems. And that's what we use to generate bills. That's what we use to generate outage tickets. That's what we use to send you the insights and alerts, which I will talk about in a few minutes here. So really, if you think about it, the AMI network is one big mesh. It's communicating to be as reliable as possible to get the information that we need to provide better service to you as timely as possible. So, I mentioned that I came, prior to Eversource, I came from another utility that had already installed 8 million meters across 6 states. That's because AMI is the standard in the industry. So there are already over 120 million smart meters installed across the country. Over 80% of electric utility customers across the country have a smart meter. And why is that? It's really because, as I mentioned to kick things off, that it is transformational to the utility customer experience. It, first of all, gives us insight into what's happening in your home in near real time, which we can then communicate to you so that you can take action. It also gives you the opportunity, if you choose to, and only if you choose to share your data with service providers who might be able to offer you better rates or equipment such as distributed generation, EV products and services, storage, things like that. But again, only if you choose to share your data with those parties to get those customized offers. And the other thing that it does is it takes the surprise out of the utility customer experience in terms of that once-a-month bill in which you've had no insight prior to getting that bill from us via email or paper bill in the mail. So what I want to do now, oh, I'm sorry, I forgot the other piece too, is that in addition to the things that you see directly in terms of the better customer experience, in terms of bill alerts, in terms of being able to see your data in real time, in terms of being able to share your data, there's a whole host of value that comes to the utility that ultimately comes back to you indirectly. So you don't directly see this, but because we have all these endpoints now that are communicating regularly with each other and then sending data back to us, we get notifications when we have a problem on the system, including an outage at your house. So today, well, before you have your smart meters, some of you I believe already have your smart meters, but if you don't have a smart meter and you have an outage, we don't really know that. However, these meters have what's called a last gasp. So if power is lost at your home, the last thing that the meter does before it is powered down because it has lost its connection is it sends us a notification that you have lost your power. We can then act on that and send crews, and we can use that information from all of the last gas meters that sent us that information to pinpoint the outage. So you no longer have to tell us, we're going to tell you that we've detected an outage at your location, and we're going to dispatch a crew more effectively to the location because we can analyze that pattern of last gasps that we receive from the meter. Another thing that's great about these meters too is that they are, I'll use the technical term, they are remote addressable. You can send commands to them to turn service on and off, which has come in use a number of times for customers I've seen over the years. I've seen several instances where a customer is moving into a new home, and let's say they're moving into a new home on a Saturday morning, and they are so excited that they realize Friday night at 11 p.m. that they have not taken the time to set up their electric service. Without a smart meter, you have to wait until the next business day to get your service set up. But with a smart meter, starting in July, because we're still finalizing this functionality, you'll be able to log in on the website, set up your service, hit a button, and within minutes, the service will be started at that premise. So that just gives you a sense of our capabilities to basically perform orders without having to necessarily roll a technician to your premise. And then the last thing too is that all this information gives us, all this information coming from the meters and the other devices that are connected to the AMI network, it just gives us better insight into the overall health of the network, where we are potentially putting more stress on devices, et cetera. And that allows us to build a more efficient, more resilient, more reliable network, electric grid, which ultimately leads to more efficiency, better reliability, and ultimately lower cost to you over time. So that's really the reason why AMI has become the standard. So I want to kind of talk through now, do a quick walkthrough here, really highlight the benefits I talked about, and specifically the difference in experience that you will have with a smart meter versus if you choose to opt out of a smart meter. So I mentioned customer alerts. In the pre-AMI world, the pre-smart meter world, we all know that the end of the month it's got that bit of suspense to it. You're going to get that electric bill, and especially if it's in the summer, or maybe if you have electric heat also in the winter, you're going to be peeling open that envelope and you're going to be cringing because you really don't know how big it's going to be. With a smart meter, we will send you customized alerts based on your settings, letting you know how much power you have been using, what your projected bill is for the month, and give you some tips on things that you can do to try and bring down that bill before you get to the end of the month and we actually send you the actual charges. If you opt out of the smart meter, you'll continue to have that same kind of suspenseful experience that we talked about before. And this next page just shows, and I apologize, this deck is going to be available afterwards, so you'll be able to see this in more detail on that. But these are examples of the alerts that you will be able to go in and set up once you have your online account with your smart meter to be informed of how much power you're using. And here, this is just an example of the first week into the month. This customer has used $113 worth of power, and the projection is $228. And then there's some other insights here. The other interesting thing too is that with the smart meters, we can show exactly when you use that power. So you could look at that graph and say, oh yeah, that was last Saturday. I was home watching basketball on TV, and I ran my dryer, and there it is. It showed up on the graph right there. So again, we're taking the mystery out of the utility billing experience with the smart meters. In addition to that, we have the ability to, once we build up your meter history in our systems, we have the ability to let you know what specific appliances and other devices in your home are actually driving your usage. So, and over time, that analysis becomes more and more robust, such that the advice that we can give you is even more useful for you. I've actually seen instances in my experience with smart meters where the utility has been able to identify refrigerator compressors that were running nonstop and running bills up. HVAC blowers that were stuck in the on position and running up bills. These are the kinds of things that show up in that bill analysis over time and will allow us to help you catch problems and reduce costs to you by addressing them more quickly. Of course, if you opt out, which is your right to do though, you don't have access to those kinds of insights. And this is just an example of the bill analysis. Again, it's really hard to see on the screen here, so we'll make the information available so that you can read the fine print. But this is an example of a customer who, about 4 months in, which is how long it takes to get your first bill analysis at this level of detail, it was showing the customer's cooling, refrigeration, laundry charges, and all other. And over time, that all other will become a little bit more specific. Another option is that these meters allow for time-varying rates. And ultimately, whether time-varying rates, how much, the extent to that they are being made available to you will ultimately come down to competitive suppliers. So one of the things that I know is that here in the town of Lee, you all have municipal aggregation. And you have picked a supplier that is the default supplier for everybody in the town. It is possible that over time, once the smart meters are in place and we have launched the time-varying rate capabilities in the beginning of 2029, that a supplier might come to your energy committee. Is that who makes the decision? Select board. So might come to the select board with a really attractive rate that has time-varying rate components, meaning that the rate is cheaper on the weekend when you tend to be home, or cheaper after hours. If the select board takes that option, you'd only be able to participate if you have a smart meter. So that's just an example of the types of benefits that come from having access to time-varying rates and more choice with the smart meters. Now, I know that might sound really confusing. Really, how do I navigate this expanding landscape of complex rates here? And the short answer is that we're going to help you out with that. When we go live with the time-varying rate capabilities in 2029, we are also going to be launching a rate comparison tool, which will allow you to take all of your usage information, just hit a button to have it loaded into the tool, and then it will tell you which rates that are available to you are the most attractive, and it will allow you to play with some scenarios saying, hey, if I get an electric vehicle, or if I put more efficient insulation in my home, how is that going to impact these rate options to let me know which one I should pick? So the point here is that we're going to be giving you more control and more information to exercise that control. And then I also talked about the benefits from an outage detection perspective as well. So again, with these meters and their last gasp capability, we will know when you're out. We will send you a text if you sign up for notifications, letting you know you're out, which is really valuable. Let's say you're out, having dinner with the kids, and a thunderstorm rolls through, and you lose power. If you weren't home, we might not find out about that outage until you got home at 9 o'clock that night if you didn't have a smart meter. But with a smart meter, we would be able to tell you as soon as that tree fell on that line at 5:15, we'd be already working on it while you're out enjoying dinner with your family and potentially have it solved before you even get home. Again, if you opt out, we don't necessarily have that information. You'd be relying on the goodwill of your neighbors to have opted in or somebody to be around at home to have made that call if you don't have a smart meter. And then that kind of transitions. I've been talking about the benefits to individual customers. I want to kind of step back and say, what are the community benefits of AMI? And this kind of expands on that outage scenario here. So what I'm showing you here on the screen is two scenarios. The first scenario is where you have a community where everybody has a smart meter, and then a tree falls on the line, and we see that there are a number of houses that no longer have power and have exercised that last gasp. It is very easy in this scenario for us to hone in specifically on the problem and solve it right there. So the more customers that have smart meters on their premise, the more responsive we can be to the community as a whole to provide more reliable power and quicker response when that reliability is impacted. Without opt-out, same scenario, but what you can see now is to our systems, it's difficult for us to tell which are the opt-out meters and which are the meters that were impacted by the fallen tree. So what that means is that it's going to take us longer to figure out where the outage occurred if we're going to hear it at all. It just depends on whether those houses that were downstream of that had a smart meter in the first place. And the other problem too is that with the combination of that opt-out plus the outage, you can see that there's some houses now at the bottom who are relying on their neighbors to strengthen the mesh. All of a sudden their communications are compromised as well. So the one other point that I want to make with this is that, do you all know what a nested outage is? Has anybody heard the term a nested outage? Yes, very good. So a nested outage is basically a situation where first a community is impacted by a large outage. So let's say lightning strikes a substation or whatever, takes down service for an entire neighborhood during a thunderstorm. But in that same thunderstorm, if a tree falls on a line downstream, then we don't know about the outages that were caused by that second tree falling without a smart meter until we have restored the power. And if a customer, and then we would send out a notification to customers saying, have you gotten your power back yet? And then you would have to tell us yes or no. With the smart meters, as soon as we have solved that larger outage issue with the substation, we would be able to see that all the meters came back except for those 3 that were impacted by the fallen tree. And therefore, again, we would know that there was a nested outage, and we would be able to proactively respond and get onto that problem instead of having to wait for somebody to tell us, oh no, you had a nested outage, and therefore we need to get back and roll another truck. So, additionally, too, I talked about the benefits to the grid and the grid efficiency here. So, as more kind of distributed generation and large load technologies such as EV chargers, solar, batteries, and even heat pumps with the new attractive Massachusetts heat pump rate are being adopted, that puts more strain on the local grid. And with the intelligence that the AMI network gives us, we can assess how close to full capacity we are loading the grid much more accurately. Without the data points down to the individual customer level to understand what's happening, whether you've installed a heat pump or the like, we basically have to slightly over-design the system, assuming to accommodate for scenarios that we can't necessarily see. So with full AMI deployment, again, you get a much more resilient and a much more efficient grid, which results in lower cost over time. With significant opt-out, we have to essentially assume, not necessarily the worst, but assume a worst case, and therefore design a grid that's going to be less efficient. So I've been talking up until this point about the benefits of having an AMI meter versus what you miss out if you don't have an AMI meter. I want to tell you about the direct costs and why we have to charge a fee. So if you elect not to have a smart meter, which again is within your rights, what we have to do every month is send a meter reader to your home to read your meter. We have penciled all that out, the cost of fuel, the cost of the person's time, and that costs $34 a month to do that. Now, the reason that we have to charge the individual customers, if you think about it, somebody has to pay that added cost that would not otherwise have been incurred. And there are 2 options, one of which is to have the customer who chose not to participate in the AMI pay for it. The other alternative is to have all customers pay for it. And so under a scenario where, let's just use like a 10% opt-out scenario, if 10% of customers opted out in a non-fee scenario, then all customers would be bearing the cost of that 10%, and every customer would end up paying $40.80 a year extra to pay for the customers who chose to opt out. So in the theory of cost causation, which is a utility term, basically means that those who are creating the cost should bear the cost. That's the reason why that $34 a month manual meter reading fee is imposed on the opt-out. And then also, too, we have to charge to install that opt-out meter if you do it outside of the AMI installation cycle. The reason I say that is that If you notify us in advance before you receive your smart meter, then we will just go ahead when we're coming out to install a smart meter and instead make it an opt-out meter, and you're good to go. However, if we have to make a special trip, again, we have to roll a technician, have to pay for the gas, pay for the vehicle, et cetera, and that's a $42 one-time fee as well. And then, of course, there's also those indirect costs too. So if there is more widespread opt-out, that results in a weaker mesh, which means we either need to install more communication devices to compensate for the bigger gaps in the communication network as a result of customers opting out. And also, too, it could also result in our having to accept more, just less grid performance and slower response during outages with those pockets as well. Again, these impact all customers, so not just the customers who opt out. So the opt-out fee is essential because it's our philosophy and the philosophy that was endorsed by the Department of Public Utilities that AMI participants should not have to bear the costs created by customers who choose to opt out. It's your right, but you have to bear that cost. And that the opt-out fee helps ensure that our AMI participants are not deprived of the full benefits of the investment. So, just to summarize here what I've talked about, I hope that I've convinced you here that AMI gives you more control over your energy usage and more insights on what to do with that control, that it gives us the data that we need to run a much more resilient and efficient grid, which ultimately results in lower cost to you over time, and that AMI technology has been embraced all across the country as the new standard. It's not even new standard. It's been around for going on 15 to 20 years, and has been independently certified as safe and secure. And so with that, I really appreciate your time, and I look forward to what I'm sure will be a robust discussion with questions later on. Thank you.
So we're going to kind of take this one at a time. So if you want to, if there's any questions about the Eversource presentation that you just heard, or anybody have any general questions about smart meters as far as Eversource's involvement with them, you can come to the microphone and ask your questions, or I don't see anybody jumping out of their seats, but I'm sure we'll have a few. Not everybody at once, but please just introduce yourself and fire away.
Hi, Jared. I'm Kathy. I'm from the Scientific Alliance for Education. It's nice that you're so, for a company that makes money off of electricity, that you're trying to save money in your budget by lowering our costs. But I don't really see your presentation as being true in that regard. There's many things that I question because in your description of these meters, you mention how all this data that's being collected is to our benefit. But I don't really see how it's to our benefit and where this data is it being, who's it being sold to?
We don't sell the data.
Mm-hmm. So you use it, and it's worth this type of data was never collected. It's not on your charts in there. You show that if it's what kind of light bulb it is, if it's a washing machine, if it's the oven that's on. You can see all of our activities. Is that correct?
So I think that we have the data that allow for those insights, but essentially the data rest in our system is just meter data, and then our partner who does the analysis for us to send to you creates the report essentially on the spot and sends it to you. We don't store the report. We don't do anything with that report.
What was your partner's name again?
It's a company called O-Power, who is a part of the Oracle. And so they've been established in the industry for a very long time, specifically for their value in creating insights for customers. So again, and I just want to stress the point, we do not sell customer data. We store the data for you, and you have the ability to share it if you'd like, using the Green Button Connect national standard. But we do
Okay,
not.
so now let me ask another question.
Yeah.
This data that you gather, I'm just going to say that electronic data collection is an unreasonable search and seizure of activities in the private domain. This is actually a Fourth Amendment violation, okay? There's no, I suppose just by saying I agree to a smart meter, I'm agreeing to be surveilled on all my activities during the day. That's what you're basically creating here. Without fully informing people that this is what it means. Okay?
Well-
So I have another question.
Well, can I address that point?
Okay, yeah, sure.
Address that point. So we have a service relationship, and so you can choose to be served with a smart meter, which essentially means that we will, generate these bills and insights for you, or you can choose to not be, served with that. However, I think one of the key points here is that we only generate these insights for your benefit. It's yes, yeah.
One person
Oh,
at
yeah.
a time, please. I'm sorry, I want to make sure everybody gets time to ask their questions. If you have a question, you can ask, but one at a time, please.
Was that it? Okay.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I lost my train of thought.
But you were saying how basically that everybody could opt out of data collection even though it's being collected regardless of our consent or not.
What I'm saying is that if you choose to opt out of having a smart meter, then we would not use interval data information to manage your account.
But your partner has this information as well.
Yes.
Okay.
Under a
Thank you.
non-disclosure agreement. Yes. Yeah.
Yes, whoever they are and however much money you make from it. So my other question is, you talked about this remote shutoff being so important, the capacity to turn off, or turn on. Can I ask you if that capacity can actually turn off specific, let's say there's a problem with the oven and you see it, you can turn it off from your end?
No.
Can you limit the usage of different appliances in the house?
No.
But you can shut off people's power
We can
at
turn
your
power
will.
on and off remotely. Yes.
if you deem for whatever reason that you just decide. It used to be that a technician would have to come to the house and turn off the power. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay.
If I can address an important point here, we take our service very seriously. We do not shut off customers' power, randomly or without reason. We adhere to all of the state regulations, and we do everything we can with customers to keep their service on when they want it.
Thank you. I heard from, as a vice president at the Scientific Alliance for Education, I've had people say that they've been threatened by Eversource, saying that they were going to turn off their power if they didn't agree to a smart meter. But I hear now you're changing that tune. So let me keep going real quickly.
Actually, if I could just address that point.
Okay.
We will not, do not shut off customers for not agreeing to a smart meter. As a last resort, if a customer denies us access to change out the meter, because it is not an option to keep your current meter because that technology is being retired. A last resort, if a customer does not allow us access to the premise for our equipment, which is part of the agreement of service that we have, is that we would.
Okay, so this brings me to another question. How is it that, we'll get into this later, but can Eversource prove that you're not a monopoly and using your position as a monopoly to intimidate us into following and using your wishes? This is a violation of the antitrust laws, such as the Sherman Antitrust Act. Okay? And furthermore, if this is, everyone has the right to self-defense, and if an unelected organization, Eversource, forces technology upon the homes and businesses of this town, when potential harm is involved, I don't see how there's any Massachusetts statute that allows for that whatsoever.
That statement was so loaded with misinformation, I don't even know how to respond. So,
Really? Well, tell me what's misinformation about that.
First of all, we come to work every day to serve our customers, and we do that in partnership with our regulators who oversee everything we do. And so, to say that I can't even recall the language that you used, but
I do want to make sure that we focus the conversation on smart meters and not the legality of,
Okay.
the Fourth Amendment right and whether or not they're violating your privacy. I understand that that's a concern for some. But
All right. I want to just bring up the UL listing part that you had on one of your things up there. UL listing used to be a nonprofit. In 2014, it became a for-profit, and it is called UL LLC or something like that. It's an entirely voluntary, not required testing. Most electronics have to go and be UL approved, not UL listed, UL approved. But with these smart meters, on page 21 of the UL, I think it's 2735 for the meters, all the extended overvoltage tests were deleted. Those are to protect against surges from the utility side, from the fire side. Okay, so if there is a huge outage, what do you have that will contain any surge? With the power from upstream coming downstream to the panel, to the people's homes or to their business or to whatever.
I'm sorry, I'm not
qualified
to answer that question. I don't know.
So what I'm talking about is that there is a lot of data that shows that these meters are not safe when it comes to fire. They're fire hazards. The old meters, which you say are no longer useful, that you're getting rid of them, can you explain what is not working with them? What is not functioning with them anymore, that they're no longer useful?
So you made two comments in there I want to comment. First of all, again, I want to speak from my experience, my direct experience being responsible for these meters and somebody who is 100% committed to safety. I have, over the course of my career, been responsible for more than 8 million smart meters. Not a single one of them has ever caused a fire, period. Number one. Number two, the drive-by technology that we use today is being retired because, number one, manufacturers are increasingly not making it anymore because this is a superior customer experience, and because, number two, it's very inefficient when you have wireless technology to rely on cars driving around or vehicles driving around to gather that meter information once a month, which is the alternative.
Well, I see your men driving everywhere. It's not like you don't have enough men to drive around. And as far as I report my data usage, monthly. Just email it in, and you've got the information. It's not terribly hard to do. And the point is that they don't emit any kind of radio frequency radiation or electromagnetic interference, dirty electricity. They are not fire hazards. We're not being surveilled. And the only people I really see benefiting from these smart meters is the utility and your partners, of which I have a lot of questions. And I think I'll retire and let this meeting continue so other people can speak. But I thank you for your time.
Yep. And again, thank you for your questions here. And again, I want to stress the fact here that I'm not here to change anybody's mind specifically about your deeply held beliefs. That's why we offer you the control to choose to opt out. I'm hoping that what I've pitched here in terms of the benefits do make you interested in accepting a smart meter.
Okay. Hi.
Hi.
My name is Travis Toole. I have a few questions. And I have 3 questions, and I have 3 observations about the points that you've made here that I'd like to share.
Please.
Okay, hi. So the first question is for the cost that you've said we have about, I think it was $34 a month for opting out of denial of smart meters. Mm-hmm. I imagine that applies to a theoretically diminishing percentage of customers. So if that's the case, how would the overall cost being born on an increasingly smaller number of people not be increased dramatically as these roll out? I guess I'm wondering, how's that $34 number not arbitrary and going to change dramatically as soon as people continue to sign up or not sign up?
So it's based on the cost of, I mean, so with an opt-out, with an opt-out account, we specifically have to roll a truck, essentially send a meter reader to a premise. There's an average distance from our area work center. We know the cost of the average time it takes to go on the premise, gain access, get that meter read, send it back, deal with the instances when we might not get access. All of those were built into a calculation that was reviewed by the Department of Public Utilities.
Yeah, so I'm just asking, how is that calculation not likely to be reviewed again and increased? You know,
You mean to a higher
in a
opt-out
month,
cost?
in a month or two from now. I mean, at any point in time, right?
Yeah.
And is it not likely that it would be increased as you get a smaller number of people who you have to be bothered to go out and service?
It's hard for me to speculate on what will happen to it in the future. That tariff will be continuously reviewed by the DPU. So it's hard for me to say whether it would go up or down. Yeah.
All right. So then my second question is, once completely rolled out, and imagining that everyone signs up, how would the customer control not be lost as it relates to the cost of power and services? Because I'm just picturing, you know, how if you've got essentially monopolistic type of control of the market with the, what is it, AMI system, then, yeah, yes, I understand that the customer has control over maybe like individual usage options, but as far as like the bigger picture goes of the cost of the electricity itself or the services, other services you provide, it seems like they would have no alternative but to just go with whatever you're providing, which is kind of where we're the juncture we're at now.
So I think it would be fascinating to come back and do another session on utility rate making. But you're right. I mean, essentially, a utility franchise is based on the acknowledgement that it is most efficient to have one provider of electric services in a footprint, and as a result, we file with completely open transparency our entire cost structure, our entire revenue structure to the state regulators, who then oversee and make sure that we are charging customers appropriately and nothing more, nothing less, and that the service we're providing is of the appropriate quality as well. So I think your premise is right, but I would say that's the whole point of the Department of Public Utilities is to oversee us and make sure that we're treating you fairly.
Okay, so then in response to my question, I should take up that issue with that department, Public Utilities,
Yeah, I think
the State Department.
Yeah,
I
think so.
It sounds like, okay.
I think so.
So then,
Just for everybody's awareness too, the Department of Public Utilities is the one that really has approved these smart meters. They're the
Right.
ones that, like the town, we don't have any say.
right,
And
yeah, I'm just
so we're holding this to like, trying to
Get-
get that information.
clarity, yeah, I appreciate, that was very helpful to clarify that for me. I'm wondering, you know, from your analysis or other companies you're partnered with, how safe is the system once it's, you know, fully immobilized from a hacking perspective?
Yes, great question. So we are, it is entirely a closed network, number one. So it is not visible to external parties of any kind, first of all, but then also too, we in the entire industry have been just laser focused on ensuring that our practices are 100% cyber secure, and as a result, there really been no, as far as I know, of any cyber issues with smart meter networks.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I have some, you know, just mental hangups around that because it seems like, you know, the lack of security you have around communication about a particular incident may, like with the system we have now, may provide a buffer as far as like, you know, not being as visible or as accessible to hackers.
I want to make sure I address your concern. I didn't quite understand that
Well,
question.
it just seems to me like, without having done the analysis, this is not my forte, this is not my specialty, but it just seems like common sense to me that, if everything is operating, all of these meters are operating on one system, that it would be potentially more vulnerable than they are now.
Are you saying that because they're on a single closed network, they're more vulnerable? Is that
Yeah, because if that single closed network were to somehow be hacked, then everyone would be in trouble at the same time.
Yeah, I can see what you're saying, but there are no paths into the network, which I
Yeah.
guess is the point.
So, I mean, that just seems to me to be something I'd want to understand better. So that's all my questions, but I just have a few points I want to make in response to the stated goals. I guess, one is that I can say from my personal experience that even with the meters that we have in place right now, I am sensitive to the radiation that comes off of them. And I can tell you that, like, my sleep and cognition and overall health is diminished drastically when I'm in the room that's closest to that meter. And based on my experience with the cell phones that have changed over in recent years to the 5G capability, that problem has increased dramatically with that upgrade in technology. And so now one of my great concerns about changing it over is that it would be like, make it so that not only do I have to avoid spending time in that room in the house, but I can't actually be in my house or on my property at all, because of the increased effect. So I just want to say that when you've done some analysis to say that it's safe, I just have the experience that tells me otherwise.
So again, I want to go back to the earliest point I made, which is that I'm not here to tell you that you have to take a smart meter. I respect, however you feel you need to move forward. I just wanted to share, we have some statistics here that compare the smart meter to the RF intensity of other appliances in the home, and it's drastically less. And so, again, this is not to discredit your points in any way. I just want folks to understand that we have tested these with our manufacturer and do believe that it's well within the range of what's considered safe for widely used devices in the home. So.
Okay. Would you mind going back to your previous slide or your finishing slide?
Sure.
So that was my comment on the safety and security piece. From what I understand, that just to sort of dovetail to that, is that these effects may be, as you say, like on an individual level, like there's a metric for it being within safe limits or reason, but from what I understand, that those effects are like compounded exponentially when you have a network in place. And so they feed off of each other and cause more disruption to biology, including human beings like me who get sick around this stuff. So I just want to say that. The efficiency, I wonder, when you talk about the efficiency increasing for the grid overall, as we sort of adopt these new technologies and everything else that's associated with them, as you mentioned, like, you're reading all these new heating, cooling systems, or appliances, or whatever else that's going on with all of that, are we not stepping further and further into a future of greater dependency, greater use, and could we not look to alternate forms of technologies that might be more, like say old school, or more, backwoods or whatever, that are just kind of simpler and not embracing the use of more electricity over time, creating more demand on the grid, and if we have to analyze, if we're not depending on people to come out and check on things, but we're depending on computers and systems to do the analysis of what's going on in the real world, then then that just puts more demand on having data centers that can process all of that, and more equipment and stuff that goes into that, and that loads on the system overall as well. So I think that it's theoretically viable, but in practice I think that it will just create more objects that are sucking more electricity and create, and human beings are pretty good at using electricity efficiently within ourselves, and so I don't know if that's been looked at or considered, but I think it's worth paying a little bit more attention to when you think about sustaining this system over time. And yeah, because we've known for hundreds and thousands of years that people can get things done, but we've never done things with the technological systems you're talking about putting in place to this scale. So it might not be too much time to find out it just doesn't work and backfires. So that's a concern. Then the level of control.
I have to ask you to, if you have one more point, please make
Yeah.
it note.
Yeah. I had one.
A line of people behind you.
Yep, I just had 1 point for each of his points. So that's 2 out of 3.
Yeah, I'm sorry. There's a line of people, so.
Okay, all right. I can wrap it up. Thanks.
Thank you. I appreciate the cuss.
Yeah, I think that's a good, if you.
Yep, real quick.
Questions, and if we have 2 more speakers we're trying to get to.
Oh, okay.
I'm also happy to stick around at the end to answer any questions too.
Can
I'll be
I-
here until you all are.
Just quick questions to
That's fine.
understand. If I choose to opt out, I'll be letting go of my darling, nostalgic little analog meter, right? You'll be putting in a smart meter regardless, but it won't be turned on and plugged into the AMI system. Is that correct?
That's correct. You will have a.
So we'll
you
still
will
have a smart meter,
a
but
dumb meter.
It won't be turned on.
Yes.
Okay, and you say that it only transmits 60 seconds a day. That means it transmits from my house to the home office for 60 seconds, but throughout the day it's pulsing continually throughout the house, right?
So typically, unless there is an event like an outage or something that requires an alert, on average they communicate data for 60 seconds a day, and then I use the term chirp. They're just chirping to maintain contact with the other meters, so that to ensure that it has a good mesh for the time that it does have to communicate back.
Okay, so I opt out, I get a smart meter that's just not turned on. It's still attached to the AMI system, but it's not turned on.
Correct.
But you can turn it on or off anytime you want.
No, we would have to come and visit it to activate the.
If it actively come and do it. Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Julie Grome, citizen of Massachusetts. You talked about who imposes the cost must bear the cost. So I'm wondering when, as Eversource customers, we voted to implement this meter change.
I think you didn't. I think that indirectly through the DPU, who is essentially, the arbiter of utility regulations, they review our proposals and decide if they're in line with the public interest. And so they essentially voted their confidence in the project on your behalf.
Okay. I have a meter on my house from 2018. I'm wondering what's wrong with it, that in 7 years it needs to be replaced. And if that's the case, why are we making a large switch to technology when technology is proving to cost us more and more and more every year, while human wages are stagnant?
I can't address the human wages point, but what I can say is that we are constantly changing out meters just due to whatever reason. A meter fails for some reason, or a new service is installed, somebody gets a solar, et cetera. So some of you are going to have meters that aren't the full 20 years old, but nonetheless, all of the meters that are being changed out have that simple drive-by technology that doesn't offer any of the features that we've talked about here and will not be able to communicate with our new system.
So like I said, technology is costing us more every year while the human wages have stagnated. When you do the smart meter upgrade for the state of Massachusetts, does that include raises for the bottom associates? Or does it mean job losses for Massachusetts citizens?
Are you talking about Eversource employees?
Yeah, I'm talking about Eversource employees. Okay, fine. I have one last question. 2029. That's fine, I have one more. That's fine. I have one more regarding the 2029 rollout for the time variable rates. I'm wondering, you said it will cheaper like during certain parts of the day or like whatever on the weekend. Will you raise the overall electric cost to offset the discounts that will be applied when people choose to use like the time variable rate system?
So this is a complex subject, but on the energy side, we actually don't make any money off of the energy sales. So and this is a competitive supply market, and I don't know how many of you are part of the Lee municipal aggregation, but it's basically a third-party supplier who provides the energy over our grid that controls those costs, not us. But what I think that policymakers as well as suppliers argue is that with this granularity, they will be able to, if they can help customers shift their usage to times of lower expense, less demand, then they can deliver a lower cost product to you. But again, I'm speaking on behalf of suppliers, not because they're the ones that are responsible for that.
Okay, and lower cost over time for the smart meters, but no timeline. So you have a timeline for 2029 and time variable rates. I'm wondering what's the timeline for our estimated reduced cost? Because within 4 months, you can show me an estimate on my personal household, and yet we don't have an estimate on how much we're supposed to be saving as a state.
I can actually follow up with you. I don't know it off the top of my head, but we do have a 20-year cash flow projection that shows the year that costs go into the costs dip below and become a net savings.
So is it 20 years out at least?
No, it's within the 20-year analysis. I don't remember the exact year, I'm sorry.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Hello, Eric Vincelat, how are you?
Good. Hi, Eric.
Appreciate your time tonight.
Appreciate you being here.
It's great to have this gathering. Unfortunately, I feel like it's a little too late with most of the towns already having installations or opted out done. I'm curious, was there a public comment period leading up to all this that we just all missed?
Yes, so actually the smart meter plan was submitted back in 2021 and approved by the DPU in 2022. Mm-hmm. And so we have been executing on that plan ever since then, the first step of which was bringing our decades-old back office systems up.
So a lot of that would fall to maybe our state representatives for maybe lack of raising alarms or questions or making the public aware. It feels like I've known this for 6 or so months, 3 months, maybe 3 to 6 months, but it seems to snuck up. All my questions are smart meter related. As far as the points here, the benefits, I think they're fluff points, honestly. I have an Eversource app. If my power goes out, I hit the app. If I have to do some laundry and use the dryer, I don't care. I'm going to do the laundry. You know what I mean? I'm going to use the dryer. Okay. So I think the points are I think they're fluff, honestly. Yes, you may. I'm first stating what I'm addressing his points, but thank you for, I guess, debating my right to speak. My questions are, if I opt out of the smart meter and I chose to opt out of the opted out smart meter and instead put in an analog meter, what are the consequences from Eversource?
You'd be violating the terms of service, and you would not be able to take service from us.
Not be able to take service, so you'd cut off the service.
Yes, so under the terms of service, you have, under the terms of service to take electric service in the state, you have to take service using an approved meter from the company.
So in other words, you'd show up at our property and cut the line.
If you refuse to allow us to install an approved meter,
Yep.
then that would be our last recourse, yes.
Right. So we would just be off grid or have no electricity. Yeah. Okay. Fair enough. The data collecting you talked about and not sharing it, is it guaranteed to never be shared, or could that change?
So you will have entire control over your sharing. So that we capture the data, we store it in our systems. We will not share it unless it is approved by you or ordered by the DPU.
Mm-hmm.
That's simple.
The opt-out option, is that a guaranteed forever option?
I can't answer that. It's, utility regulation is.
So who's to say that in a certain period of time when all this web is set up, that there's no longer an opt-out option?
All I can say is this, is that I personally will continue to advocate for an opt-out option because I believe you should have that control, but I'm not the decision maker, so it's not ultimately up to me.
The last thing I'll say is that while you're investing all this time and money, I'd personally like to see more time and money by the utilities to harden the grid. Our grid is so completely exposed and outdated, the overall grid. So thank you for your time.
Thank you for your questions. Appreciate it.
Thank you for being here and taking all these hard questions.
My pleasure.
So I have a few questions for you. I can't make it slower. So I was wondering, when you come to our house, first of all, question, can we ask for where we would like it placed so I don't have it below my bedroom, for instance?
So your meter socket is already installed on your house.
Right.
You can choose to have it moved, but that would be at your expense. Again, so just to be clear, meter sockets are something that when a house is built, the builder and the electrical contractor site. It is not a decision that the utility makes. There are specifications that they have to adhere to for the utility, but the meter socket is technically owned by the homeowner and can be moved.
With that, right now, they are not emitting I learned from last time, what's it called? It's emitting, I forget. Thank you. And so I feel like that should be your expense because now I'm exposed to the radio frequency. And so if I agree to have the smart meter, then I would like it placed where it's not potentially making me more sick. For instance, it could be on the front of my house versus the side where my bedroom is. So that should, in my opinion, would be an expense that you would pay. Just a thought. That would be helpful to many of us. Second, I have a question about if you could notify me. I'd like to be there when this is being done. I don't want you just coming on my property at a time that I don't know, when somebody's just showing up at my house.
So this is the timeline here. So I assume that because all of our customers in Lee are within 30 days, so I assume you have received the first two communications?
Mm-hmm.
Yep. So then we will come and we'll knock on the door. But
I'm not just sitting there every day.
right, I understand that. So if you'd like to make an appointment for it,
Yeah.
I'll give you my card afterwards, and,
Okay.
and I'll arrange to make sure you have an appointment.
Um,
Is your meter inside or outside?
outside.
That's okay.
I think all our houses are outside. Yep. The second, a couple more questions like this. So it's $34 a month to opt out. And my question is, fair enough, there's an opt-out, you're saying, cost, which I'm not liking. That's very expensive for me, as I just retired, so that's an expense for the year and for seniors. But what I want to get at is, we're a small community. It's a small neighborhood in my neighborhood. For somebody to drive around the neighborhood, why is each person being costing $34 instead of like the street or the block, where it's like, boom, he could go around to all the opt-out. If everybody in my neighborhood decided to opt out, that would be one-time cost.
Yeah, I understand, but basically the way that the tariff is set up is that we calculate the average cost for an opt-out customer, not knowing if there's going to be a cluster or if it's going to be, typically the opt-out percentage is going to be less than 1%. And so on average, it is going to be,
Well, let's say my block decides to opt out. Let's just say.
Yeah.
That's not $34 a person. That could be $34 for that hour. So that's just a thought.
Yeah, but we can't, we can't have a unique tariff for each customer.
Yep, it's very expensive. Now, the other thing in terms of showing us what things cost, like refrigerator, et cetera, don't you have to have a refrigerator that's a smart refrigerator? No. How do you know?
So the way that and again, you don't have to take this feature, but the way that it works is that each appliance in a home has a pattern of consumption, and they use a regression technique that allows over time to break apart your total load curve into the components based on their different signatures of the devices. And so a refrigerator's energy consumption pattern looks different from a heater's energy consumption pattern, looks different from a laptop's energy consumption pattern, looks different from a TV. And so over time, as the data builds, the analysis will allow us to send you a report that hones in on what's specifically driving your usage at different times.
Okay. Another question. If, let's say, I'm not saying that this is going to happen, but let's say the town of Lee, at a town meeting coming up after they're already all installed, decides as a town that we vote and have on our agenda that we don't want this as a town, then what happens?
You have to take that up with the Massachusetts DPU. But yeah, I think that there's there's case law on that point. But yeah.
And can you opt out later?
Yes, you can opt out at any time. It's just that if you don't opt out before your planned smart meter installation, then the $42 one-time installation fee applies as well.
I had one last question, which was, I don't understand something that you presented, which was, actually you did explain it. You were saying that it's 60 seconds a day to transmit the information, but the actual, during the day, it's the chirping is regular, every 15 seconds, every 15 minutes?
I don't know the exact frequency, but it's...
I would like to know
just,
that. Can you...
Yeah, I'm not sure that there is an exact answer. I think it depends on the strength of the network in your location. But yeah, I can get you a technical answer. If you come to me afterwards and give me your contact information,
Okay.
I'll be happy to.
And then, is it also, if I'm more isolated from other houses, is it not projecting as much radio frequencies?
I am not an expert in the radio frequency, and I think it would be situation specific. It just depends on how many meters are likely in range and how close they are.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Lois Jensen from Tyringham. My interest is on the safety of the non-communicating meters,
Okay.
which I understand are the same meters as the smart meters with the RF turned off. Is
Radio
that
completely
correct?
disabled, correct.
Okay. Can the non-communicating meters be switched on and off remotely?
No, they have to be They have to be visited and with the radio turned back on.
And a switch or something like that.
Yeah, some kind of probe. I believe there's
Okay.
like a magnetic probe.
And are the non-communicating meters collecting data of any kind?
They are collecting your read once a month, just like a
Okay.
well, what they're doing is they're acting just like a dumb meter.
An
basically.
analog meter.
It's
Mhm.
just counting,
Okay.
and then we come up and we look at the display and take the number. Yeah.
Okay. Also, I was told by one of your colleagues that these non-communicating meters, or these meters, they're all the same meters, do not rely on a switch mode power supply, which creates dirty electricity. Is that correct?
I'm not an electrician, so I can get
Okay,
the answer to that exactly for you, but it sounds right. It sounds correct.
It's what changes AC to DC, and that's what creates these so-called dirty electricity.
Yeah, if you see me afterwards, give me that exact question. I'll make sure you
Okay,
get a good
and
answer.
an expert I know says, well, how can then it move from radio frequency transmitting to non-radio frequency transmitting without this switch mode thing?
Mm-hmm.
So that dirty electricity is an important consideration.
Okay.
Yeah. Also, Tyringham was a pilot project for these meters, and I opted out, and Eversource kindly said, okay. And so I've had a meter reader come for years now, but most of the time it's just estimated by you. And so a meter reader comes maybe 4 times a year. And I read in the DPU that is also being allowed with these new meters, but we're being charged $34 to have somebody come out every month. So how do you explain that?
We don't, as a matter of practice, allow meters to estimate for more than 1 month if we can avoid it.
Well,
So
for many months at a time.
I don't know your specific situation, but our goal is to
Okay.
issue an accurate bill every month. So I apologize if you've been getting estimated bills. I'll be happy
Right,
to look at that.
and now I'll be paying for them. I just wanted to mention that. Okay, but I'd be interested in an official answer on the switch mode power supply.
Yeah.
Okay,
Okay.
thanks.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Courtney Gilardi. I want to thank you for being here tonight.
Courtney.
Thank you for Lee for hosting. And I would love to see this as like the first of more forums as well, specifically on the health and safety issues. The first comment that I wrote down that you spoke was that these are UL listed as healthy and safe, and 100% safe for our customers. Does the UL listing account for biological safety? Are they testing for health and safety? What is the UL testing?
That's another good follow-up question. I can get you the specific level of rigor that they've been tested to. I don't know that.
Yes.
I don't know how to answer that question, biological safety.
So UL listing is for fire and electric shock. It's not for biological health and safety. So it's not, for example, many of you guys know me because my daughters they have EMF sensitivities. And so their physician gave to me at the time of their diagnosis the American Academy of Pediatrics position statement that they should avoid exposure. And so, for example, when you bring up the safety sheet on the screen, or your sheet that I don't think it says safety, it just says that these meters operate less than a laptop or a cell phone. We use those things hardwired in our home so that you are measuring, like Eversource has a web page, and it says, RF radiation is ubiquitous, but not in our home, and not in the homes of people who have been told by their physicians. For example, those people who have had cancer, people who have cardiovascular disease, people who have pacemakers, people who have neurological or reproductive issues. Dr. Henry Lai has done a lot of work on this at Kaiser Permanente and has said to pregnant women, avoid RF radiation. Now, the Massachusetts Department of Public Health says if you need to avoid RF, you can do 3 things. This is on their website. You turn it off, use it less, move away from the source. But with a smart meter, we can't do that unless we are opting out, correct?
Well, I think if your goal is to completely eliminate the smart meter as a source, then yes, you would need to opt out. But the intensity of the RF, first of all, is very low by normal household standards within 2 feet, and diminishes greatly the farther away you move from it. So again, I am not a doctor, and I'm sorry that your family has those medical issues, and so I'm very sympathetic to that. Believe me.
Thank you, and I appreciate you supporting the opt-out vocally as a representative of Eversource. That really means a lot to us here to even have that option.
Yep.
But yes, I mean, it's very low, but at the same time, my children experience nausea, headaches, dizziness, and skin rashes. And they need to be in an RF-free environment. Now, I can't protect them when they go to school, so many of these children are homeschooled because they can't be out in public. They need to have a recovery time. But in our homes, even where the meter is, that's strong enough to create symptoms, right? And so if that's on somebody's bedroom wall, or if they're in an apartment building with a bank of them, and as you've heard from several people here, like, I'm a retired preschool teacher, right? I have 2 children. Is there any program that Eversource can offer for people who are elderly, disabled, have medical needs to reduce this fee, to make it not that we are being financially penalized over $400 a year to protect our own health?
Again, I feel like that the opt-out option that we have here is an appropriate solution for that.
But it's very expensive for people who are on fixed incomes, and our taxes and even just our electrical bills, we're having a hard time paying that. And for many people, they're choosing between eating and having to keep their electricity on, or medications, or keeping their electricity on. So $400 a month is significant to many of us in the community. I mean, one of the options that we have heard, I mean, other states do have a no-fee opt-out. But other people in other places that do have a no-fee opt-out, they take a photo of their meter and they send it into the electrical company, and then once a year somebody comes out. Would that be a win-win solution to be able to protect people who have a medical necessity to reduce their exposure to RF?
I think, again, I not having the specific information that you're citing here, I'd have to look into that. So I can't opine on whether that would work for this situation, but I do believe that the solution that we have in place balances the needs of customers who have, deeply held concerns about the smart meters, while at the same time ensuring that customers who do want to participate get the full benefits.
I don't think people have deeply held concerns about smart meters. I think people have a medical diagnosis from a physician, from a pediatrician, or from their cardiologist or neurologist or endocrinologist saying, don't have this. It's not a deeply held belief. It's when they're exposed, they're sick and they have symptoms. And when they're not, they don't have symptoms. And that your home needs to be a sanctuary. And I'm not sure this is a solution if we are being penalized twice, because as you said in your presentation, and maybe you can clarify, if we don't have a smart meter, we pay an opt-out fee every month, and then we're penalized because we can't buy into the municipal rate. So we are being...
I don't think
That's not what I'm saying.
That shouldn't affect anything.
Oh.
Eversource doesn't, the town has entered in, if you live in the town of Lee, we've entered into a municipal aggregation where we have, negotiated rates for a better energy. Eversource doesn't produce the energy. They bring the power to us. So they're not at all responsible for anything to do with the municipal aggregation. I hope I said that. Gordon will check me later if I was wrong.
I might have confused things by bringing that topic up. The point is that the only thing is that you can't participate in any time varying rate, which could in the future include the municipal aggregation rate that Lee settles on.
So we may not be able to participate in the aggregate rate then, in the future.
Yes, because it requires a smart meter.
Right, so that's being penalized twice. So just to my point, so people who have RF disabilities then are being penalized twice. Okay, thank you so much, I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Hi there, my name is Wendy Chimura.
Hi, Wendy.
My friend Cindy Matthias is the original person that introduced her concerns with the smart meter at the Lead Select Board meeting way back. And I talked with Sean, and she has one question for you. I have her right here on the phone, and I will play this. Okay, Cindy, you're on.
Okay, give me 1 minute. Can you do your talking? Because I need a minute.
No, we need you.
Wait 1 minute. 1 second.
I am happy.
I'll let
I
the
am
other
happy to
person
give you my
go.
business card, and she can call me tomorrow if she wants to.
I'll let the other person go.
Hi. My name is Sarah Basson.
Hi, Sarah.
I just had two questions, mostly about safety. One is, can Eversource guarantee in writing that these meters actually are safe for people in terms of having ill effects on their health?
What I can say is that, again, we take health and safety very seriously, and based on everything that we have reviewed and and the testing that our manufacturer has put this through, we are confident that this is a good solution for our customers. But I recognize that everybody has their own standards, so I'm not here to substitute my standard for yours.
Okay, so that's a no. I'm taking that as a no because you don't know.
Well,
I'm not sure, but it sounds
I
like
think-
you're saying no, that you can't guarantee it in
I think what
writing,
I'm
or-
saying is that you clearly have a standard in your mind that you'd like me to certify, and I don't have enough information here to.
Just to be healthy. If that's a standard, I don't know.
Well, I believe it is. so
It's not in my mind, it's in my
So I
body.
would say that based on my standard, it is. But I understand that my standard doesn't resonate with
Okay,
you.
so I'm not getting a clear answer. That's fine. I'm going to move on. I just have one other question, which is, do the smart meters have lithium-ion batteries in them?
They do, yes.
Because those are extremely dangerous if there is a fire. I mean, I don't know if anybody's seen what happens when they catch on fire, when those batteries catch on fire.
Mm-hmm.
It's extremely bad. You can't put it out with water. There's a lot of issues with those, and so I'm wondering what about the safety issue of those being, even if you opt out, you're still going to have that. I'm assuming you're still going to have that battery in your non-communicating smart meter. Is that true?
Yes.
Yeah, because
So-
I live in a house that's a barn, basically. It's old barnwood. And if something goes wrong with that meter, everything will fry in no time. All of us will perish, me, my husband, the animals. So it's a big concern for me.
I appreciate that. And again, I'll point out two things. The first is that in my experience over years with smart meters, I've never seen one cause a fire. And the battery that is in these is comparable to a battery in a carbon monoxide or self-contained smoke detector in your home. So,
Do they have lithium-ion batteries in them, in the smoke detectors?
yes.
My understanding is that they, if the meters catch on fire, that's all connected to your wiring in your house. So
batteries-
if something
the batteries
goes
not.
wrong, that could cause major fire issues. And I know
Yeah,
you personally don't have experience with that, but other people have. So I'm just throwing that out there to everyone that is a big concern. And if you can't answer that, that's okay. No pressure. I just.
No, I understand.
Yeah.
I think people hear lithium and they get concerned, but the fact of the matter is these batteries are very similar to what are in devices that are recommended for your home for safety purposes. So, in smoke detectors, carbon monoxide detectors, home.
Thank you so much
Yeah,
for your
yeah.
time. Okay.
Okay, Cindy, you're up.
Okay, I heard the last segment from this woman who was asking questions. I just want to be a Budinsky and say that if you call your insurance company and there happens to be a fire from a smart meter, they do not cover that. So that's number one. Okay, so in November, I first brought up the smart meters to the town administrator, Chris Britton, and he got in touch with the Eversource liaison, and they sent him a link called Electric Smart Meters. So as I was perusing through it, I found a particular slide that upset me greatly. Here I'm going to read it. Could smart meters cause health problems in cancer survivors? While RF exposure might not cause cancer directly, concern has been voiced that cells in the body that have been damaged by exposure to some other substance might somehow be more likely to become cancerous when exposed to RF waves. In theory, this might be a concern for people who are or who have been treated for cancer with ionizing radiation and or medicines that might cause cancers themselves. Animal studies have not shown evidence of this, and this effect has not been studied in people. So I'd like to say, what studies do you have? Because we know that RF hasn't even been tested since 1996, and there were no smart meters available. I feel that there should be an automatic exemption of the smart meters on homes of people who have these health issues. Do you have any reaction, sir?
Well, first of all, I thank you for sharing that. And again, I am not a medical doctor, so I'm not going to sit here and dispute your interpretation of what you read.
He said he's not a medical doctor.
Okay, well, I'm asking what Eversource, you should have these facts. Eversource should know if their smart meters are poisonous to people who've had radiation and chemotherapy. Okay, well, since you're not a doctor and you don't want to answer any of these questions.
Okay, they're cutting us off. He's cutting us off, okay?
Hello. Well, it's been nice meeting you previous to the meeting. And
yes.
My name is Ben Shavinsky. I live in Sheffield, Massachusetts. And the question I've come up with, many people feel quite sure health effects are the result of a smart meter doing its job within the house. It's constantly putting out electronic signals. I remember having tested mine and finding that every 10 to 15 seconds there's a signal going out. Now, isn't it possible to block the ill effects? Or if we block the ill effects, will it block the signal and therefore destroy all the efficacy that is being used?
So I think, if I understand your question, Ben, the question is it possible to contain the radio frequency and still maintain the efficacy of the meter? I don't believe so, just because I think that the radio frequency is the medium by which we get the information that we need to provide the service.
So we're stuck with it.
If you would like the benefits of a smart meter, it needs to be able to communicate. That's what I can say. Yes.
I'm very sorry to hear that. How could we have devised something without stopping to find out if it can cause, and it obviously has, cancer to people? Where am I living? Is it getting better or worse? I don't have much faith in technology, personally, because I keep finding things like this, and the technology goes blind runs blind in the hopes of making more money, which is our biggest problem in the world, which isn't needed. It's a scarcity based on fear. What are we doing? Are we going to finish our existence here and give Earth a chance, a few million year chance to just be rid of all this?
Sorry to just interrupt, but we're here to
yeah.
Somebody has some more questions. Thank you.
Hi, I had a question about the non-communicating devices. Do those do the chirping that you referred to?
No, their radio is completely disabled.
My next question was if you're in a really rural area where there's not a lot of neighbors so that the mesh is spread apart, are those things trying harder, like a Wi-Fi signal, like constantly looking? So are those areas exposed to even more of that chirping because of that? Not the chirping you said is in the house, but I'm talking about communicating to the system.
That's a great question. So if you are in a situation, your home is way down the road, only premise there, then we will install a series of relays to get you to the access point so that the meter doesn't have to work extraordinarily hard.
But if you're in an opt-out situation and you can convince your neighbors, then you won't have those relays installed?
You would not have those relays regardless if you're opt-out. Well, I mean, we might still install them in the possibility that the future tenant decides to take the AMI service, but so I don't know the answer to that.
And then the
particular-
last suggestion that I have is, these analog meters have lasted years and years and years. So wouldn't it be more cost-saving if you then replaced them with a non-communicating device when they had a problem and needed to be replaced? Because my understanding is that the technology of these meters, they have to be replaced every 10, 15 years when analogs have been there for decades.
So that's an excellent question, and it's actually a very complex answer. I'll give you the short answer. The short answer is that it becomes very expensive to run 2, possibly 3, if you count opt-out, meter collection methods all at the same time. So this is number 1, an efficiency play, and then number 2, because that technology is becoming obsolete, it's actually becoming disproportionately expensive to replace those old meters. And then the third point is that
Well, you could replace them with a non-communicating when they fail, but it wouldn't cost you anything. You wouldn't have to go out and install it and switch it. If somebody's already paying the opt-out fee, why can't they pay the opt-out fee, keep their analog?
Because and thank you for asking that point. The other important point there is that the current meters have radios, and so since so much of the concern is about radio frequency, we didn't feel it would be appropriate to have an opt-out solution that still had an active radio. So it's a decision there too. Yeah. Your current meters have a radio that broadcasts to the vehicle.
But only when the vehicle drives by and activates it, right?
Yeah, that's how it works.
So it's
in
like a
Massachusetts.
one-time instant.
In some places, AMR meters. It's called AMR. That's the technology replacing. In some places, AMR meters are constantly chirping. In Massachusetts, I believe that most, if not all, of our meters wait to hear from the mobile data collector to get that one once a month read. Yeah.
Hi, my name is Gordon Bailey. And,
Hey, Gordon.
Hi, got a couple of questions for you. Yeah, okay, I'll go sit down. Anyway, thanks, Sean. Couple things. With this, it seems like most of the concerns, or a lot of them, are about the RF frequencies. So is this something that goes out from the meter like 360 degrees, or is it aimed and focused?
I'm pretty sure it's 360 degrees.
Okay.
I think there's some radio experts in here who know about antennas better than I do.
Well, okay. So is there any way that someone could block the radio frequency? I don't mean put aluminum foil all over their windows or anything like that. But what would stop a radio frequency from coming into someone's house? Like, do they make meter boxes that can be, so we own the meter box. So can I buy a meter box with some kind of material on the back side, so when you plug in, it only goes, 240 degrees, so it no longer comes into my dwelling?
I honestly don't know if that kind of product is on the market. I think that the complication there is that it's not obvious without spending a lot of time with each meter in numerous different conditions, including different seasons, depending on the foliage, what the communication path is that meter is using. So you might be well-intentioned in trying to direct it in one direction, but that might not be the path that the meter is using.
Well, I'm just trying to stop it from going one direction, not stop it from some aiming at the street. So I just wanted to know what materials there are, and maybe you can answer this. And by the way, every time you've said, get to me later and I'll get back to you, I'd like you to send all those questions and answers to the Board of Selectmen, the Select Board. That would be very helpful for us in helping people in Lee who aren't here tonight and don't have disability. But I would like to follow up and find out what does stop a radio frequency from coming back into my house. So you can write that down as one of the things I'd like to hear back from you about.
I think the answer, that's a Faraday cage.
What's that?
I think the answer to that is a Faraday cage, but I don't know if a product exists that would allow it to just contain it in the direction.
It'll be on tape. We can all watch it later.
Yeah.
So, okay. And when you say, again, it was a great question about lower costs over time, I'd love to know more about what does that mean. I've never seen my electric bill charge for service go down, ever. It always goes up. And I can understand some of that. Some of it's political decisions to upgrade our grid, and that has to be paid for. And it's not going to come out of Eversource's bottom line. It's going to be paid for by the people who are being served, and I understand the concepts. And again, this whole opt-out fee you got from the DPU, I'm sorry that it wasn't more public. At the time, nothing to do with Eversource. You know, to me, my problem was with the DPU, usually, and the way they do business. Because in my mind, they're not there to protect people. They're there to protect the utilities and the monopolies that run them. To make sure you have a guaranteed income stream and also pay people who have bought your stock. You know, I get that, because we live in a capitalist world, and you need to do that. But when you, as Eversource or whoever was in front of the DPU at the time, and you were talking about, well, we need to charge for our guy going around and I can understand that. I was in business, I understand costs. But where was the reflected savings for not having people go around and read meters for everybody else? Like, I don't, so could you address that? Because I don't see how you work that into your formula. Because again, you would think that would be a reduction for me every month of maybe $5, $6. So where does this show up on my charge?
I can actually send this, and this will answer the question from the citizen who asked the question earlier about the cost when it goes positive. So we filed an exhaustive plan that shows all of the costs and benefits associated with our AMI plan, and it includes things like the savings from not having to roll trucks to read meters. And so that goes into the overall business case. And so basically, over time, we are responsible for demonstrating that we are administering the plan prudently, which includes not only managing the cost of the program, but then also demonstrating that the benefits materialized as well, which include, among many other things, the reduced cost of that. And so that kind of goes into the overall business case. So it'll be reflected in the overall costs that are or are not passed on to customers over the next 20 years.
So when you were in front of the DPU, was this a line item that you could show to the DPU?
Yes.
And that's obviously all public record. So I'd be able to go in and see how much money
I can send
I'm
that
saving.
to you right after this meeting. I keep it on my laptop, yeah.
That's okay. I don't want to see it out right now. Believe me, I don't. I got enough to think about, but I would love to look at that at my leisure. How's that?
If I could just make one point.
Yeah.
Yes. So all of this, again, I don't know. I don't know what to say about the fact that you all didn't feel like you had transparency in this process, but this was all a part of an exhaustive. It's called a regulatory docket in which we reviewed, and there were consumer advocates, including the Attorney General, who reviewed our plan. Which includes, I think it's 187 pages of all of these details specifically spelled out. And I and my team, among other things, are laser focused on making sure that we deliver every single one of the benefits that we promise to customers in that plan. So to your point.
So if I have this meter on my house, it sounded like I'm going to get messages about my usage. I don't want to get messages.
You can turn them off.
Okay, well, how do I do that? I go through
We have
Eversource.
We have what we call a preference center where you can go in and request set the frequency of your alerts or lack thereof. You can decide if you want to share your data with third-party energy suppliers to make offers to you or not. You can set up your preferred channels for outage notifications and things like that. So there's a preference center that you log into on the Eversource.com website to control all that.
Yeah, because I get too many messages now. I don't want any more messages that I've left my TV on overnight or something like that over time. Well, but I want to be very careful about not interacting, and I don't know about this other partner that you have who looks at all your data and all that. I don't know that I'd have to know more about that, so maybe I'll talk to you about it offline. Because it just seems like quite an intrusion in why do you care, especially if I don't want to know that my refrigerator's running, well, I don't want you to notify me. I'll know because I can hear it, number one. And that kind of thing, I don't want to know this stuff. To me, it's unnecessary, and it's a cost to you that I'd like you to reduce my, my delivery service by 2 cents a kilowatt and stop talking to me and giving me notifications. I'd be happy with that. So, all right, well, at this point in time, I think we've all said enough, and I'll let you get back because we do have other presenters. But thank you. Yeah, no, I'm not trying to block you off. I'm just saying I'm done. But thank you.
Thank you.
No problem.
Thank you. Good. I just have 2 simple questions. I own a home in South Egremont. My name is Jess Jordan. Wow, okay, I'm not going to get this microphone down here. For one, I'm a homeowner, like I said. Are renters able to opt out of this smart meter?
Whoever is responsible for the utility bill makes that decision.
So it'd be up to the landlord?
It depends. There are some landlord situations where most landlord situations where the tenant is responsible. It's whoever's name is on the account.
Okay, so it'd be between the renter and the landlord to make that decision?
Yeah.
Okay. Again, I've already opted out on my smart meter about 6 months ago, and I've seen Eversource delivering around my town. How will I actually know when the new smart meter comes, since they all look the same, if it's been switched on or off?
It says radio off, just like that. So you will still get the door hanger because you'll still have a power outage when we flip the meter, and a smart meter that has been completely disabled and turned into a dumb meter says rad off.
Okay. And do you know when your projection of when you're going to be done with this state is?
The state, the end of 2027 is our target. We will be done with Western Massachusetts, not entirely done because we have stragglers, vacant buildings and things like that, but largely done with this area within the next month.
Yeah, I think when I opted out, it was in Worcester at the time. Mm-hmm. And I have friends that have been wanting to take off their smart meters. Well, they were told they had to wait till all their meters were installed before they had the option.
If it's Worcester, that might be National Grid. We don't serve Worcester.
Okay, I'm sorry. It's a different source that's including smart meters. But you work for a smart meter company?
Yeah, but we have slightly different approved.
So someone could just technically get it removed tomorrow, or sign up the second you've installed it? Because you did install recently in Lee, and I had friends that did not okay those smart meters. That happened right after the last board meeting, and they didn't get the freedom to say they didn't want it on their building.
Yeah, so it's not an opt-in, it's an opt-out. So you have to notify us when you receive the communications.
But it shouldn't take a long time, though, is what I'm saying, for those people to get that removed.
To get it removed? No, it shouldn't take too long. We have a desk that will give you a time frame.
Okay, I'm just answering for friends. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, if there's no other questions, we will move on to.
Thank you, everybody. I really do appreciate the good questions and the discussion.
While I'm getting this going, I will just remind everybody that the town has sent a number of letters, a couple letters to the DPU and some of our legislature, and advocating for a no-fee opt-out, a free opt-out. And we've also approved a resolution within town to advocate for no wireless and no health effects and an opt-out as well. Which one was you? Thank you. It's not much, and again, the Department of Public Utilities is going to be who you want to contact in the future for any further concerns.
Thank you very much. You guys have been very patient tonight. My name is Cece Doucette. I'm the Director of Massachusetts for Safe Technology. I have provided my slides and our building biologist Rex Funk slides to the town, and I think you guys will be putting them up online. So anything that's in here, we invite you to go online, look at the slides. You should be able to click through any links. We say, don't take our word on anything. Get to know this information for yourself. This is a critically important health problem that our society is facing today. So get to know the science and the medical recommendations. We'll get you started. Is that better, Kath? Okay, thank you. Let me see if I can move this laptop. Okay, so that MTPW after my name just means I had the privilege of earning a master's in technical and professional writing at Northeastern University, along with a communications undergrad, and I never in a million years imagined this is where I'd be applying my skill set, but here we are, and here's why. So when my kids were in school in Ashland Public Schools, I had run campaigns for years to bring wireless technology into our schools at the time when the industry was introducing us to their 21st century classroom. And then one night at book group, a girlfriend of mine is an electrical engineer, and she tipped us off that there are biological effects. And well, it was book group, so I just made a mental note of it. But not long after that, the American Academy of Environmental Medicine, these are the doctors who get the conundrum cases that regular doctors have not been trained on because something in the environment, like a smart meter, a cell phone, a cell tower, is causing biological effects. And so, again, never an easy conversation to have because industry, by and large, owns the messaging and mainstream. When you watch your TV, you listen to the radio, you hear Verizon, AT&T, Comcast, that controls the messaging of what we get to learn as citizens. So it wasn't an easy conversation, but we became the first public school district in the nation to even have a sign with precautions. Turn this stuff off when we're not using it. Turn the antennas on only as long as you need them, and never ever place a radiating device on your body. So then I went and worked with my state senator, Karen Spilka, who's now our Senate president. We introduced legislation, and we wanted to form a commission to bring the right minds together at the state level to look at this, get the facts, and then decide what to do. I also helped New Hampshire pass the first law to actually do that. I also, working with one of the world's leading scientists in Finland, founded a little organization called Safer Screen Time. We can literally train an entire workforce on your lunch hour, what the science is telling us, what the medical recommendations are, and steps that you can take to use technology, but to stay connected and protected. And then, for the first 2 years, I was doing my own investigation, and I didn't have anybody I could talk to about this. And then a panel of world-leading experts came to the Massachusetts State House to ask for right-to-know legislation, because just like with tobacco or gambling or pornography or drugs, adults will make their choices, but we are morally obliged to protect ourselves and our pollinators because this is doing a number on them too, the birds, the bees, and the trees. So when this panel of experts came to the State House, I was like a kid in a candy store because finally I had somebody I could talk to about this, and we had the retired president of Microsoft Canada speaking. We had a co-laureate on climate change who has taken on this issue speaking. We had the gentleman from the Indian government fly in to tell us that our FCC limits are way up here for public radiation exposure, and India's was too, but at least on paper they have reduced it 90%. So when our friend from Eversource says, oh, it's all within the FCC limits, those were set way up here in 1996 based only on the thermal effect, which means how much heat from a device in 6 or 30 minutes to raise the temperature of your skin. It has nothing to do with the neurons, with our electrical organs, or the development of our children. So when I was at the State House, I met with others, and it was finally great. I had people all over the state who knew about this. And so we formed Massachusetts for Safe Technology. And you should know that we have been testifying in front of the Department of Public Utilities for more than a decade. And they have completely disregarded everything in the public record that pertains to public safety. And when I took my radio frequency radiation detection meter and I sat down on my living room or my dining room floor, where I have a meter for solar and a meter for electric, I counted those pulsations. And when I did the math, it was 17,000 times a day that digital meter was radiating my family. And that's not even what the AMI technology is, which will bring even more radiation. Somebody down at the National Institutes of Health found my work and asked me to co-chair the Health and Buildings Roundtable Conference. I include this link because our talks were held to 8 to 10 minutes. So if you want a highly credible resource to share with somebody, take a look at that one. And then one of the gaps we had is, as Ms. Gilardi and Travis have said tonight, people are getting very sick from this, but we had no way to train our healthcare practitioners. So we are very grateful for the hard work of the doctors and scientists who pulled together the Electromagnetic Fields Medical Conference, and I was honored to be brought in to speak on state and local policy. So that's my background. My mom always taught me, if you see a problem, do your best to be part of the solution. So that's why I've given up my tech writing career to come into communities like this and help you to know there is invisible, serious risk happening from all of our wireless technology. So for anybody with us right now who has an iPhone, I invite you to take that out, and I want to walk you through the legal fine print that has protected the industry's backside on this. So go into settings if you have an iPhone. What I'm showing you now will take it from tinfoil hat conspiracy theorists to what? They warned us all along and we just never even knew this was in here. So settings, go down a little ways and hit general, and then go all the way down and hit legal and regulatory. Settings, general, legal and regulatory, and on the next screen you will see RF exposure, which is radio frequency microwave radiation that they politely call energy because it is a man-made form of energy. In that legal fine print, it tells us two really important things. One, they tested this device at a distance from the body. So if you're using it the way they give it to you, you are being radiated not by just one antenna, but for every service they have given us, the cellular, data, Bluetooth, Wi-Fi, locator, hotspot, 5G, and more. There are separate antennas mounted in your device that constantly go, here I am, where are you? Here I am, where are you? I want to make a connection to the nearest cell tower or router. And nobody has ever read that legal fine print. But hey, couple paragraphs down, they say, to reduce your exposure, basically once you know you're radiating yourself, don't touch it. To reduce your exposure, use a hands-free option, like speakerphone, or the headset that may have come with it. But you certainly don't want to be putting Bluetooth radio frequency antennas right up to your brain, right? But again, how did we know? So I'd like to give you a demonstration of this radiation. This is the radio frequency detection meter that was recommended at the EMF medical conference for doctors to put into their practices. We have one up in Beverly. She loans it to her patients for $10 to make them take it seriously, and then says, you've got 2 hours, go home and do your scavenger hunt and come back and tell me what the readings were and from what devices, and we'll walk you through what to do with that. So in the scientific literature, they want us to be at no more than 10 microwatts per square meter. And I'm going to turn this on, and it's the maximum spike that we're concerned about. Right now, we are at 878 microwatts per square meter because we all have devices. There's wireless in the building. This may be transmitting in front of me. But I want to take my iPhone out of airplane mode and show you what happens when we choose to voluntarily expose ourselves to all of these radiating antennas. We went from about 800, and right now the maximum read that I'm getting pulsated with is 2,240,000. 2 million, and the science wants us to be at 10 or less. So let me just put this back in airplane mode. Okay, but tonight's message is not no technology, it's safe technology, and we know how to get there. So what is wireless radiation and why should we even care? What happened when we went from going from hardwired phones to wireless and got rid of the cords? Well, let's put it into perspective of what the Earth does naturally. Every 7.83 seconds, the Earth pulses this beautiful healing energy that every living cell on the planet is meant to be connected to. That's called Schumann resonance. And that is what our bodies are meant to be synchronized to. When we started getting fancy with digital technology, we started sending signals and data in these spiked erratic bursts. 1 million times per second is what a megahertz means. And then, as we get pushed into 5G, in the gigahertz range, our biological cells are getting jackhammered with microwaves at 1 billion times per second. And folks, we are simply not built for that. So Dr. Martin Blank from Columbia University and his son R, they wrote this book called Overpowered. And Dr. Blank was one of our foremost scientists on this. And now in his passing, his son has written a companion book that was just released called Empowered. Now that it's here, now that we know about it, what can we do? And there is a lot that we can do. But let's talk you through what the science is telling us. Courtney and others already mentioned that it causes cancer. And before they used to say, well, you know, Senator Ed Markey knew 20 years ago it's a co-carcinogen. And now we have the science showing it directly causes cancer. Our own government completed a $30 million study with the National Toxicology Program, and they are looked upon as the gold standard in toxics research, and this is the largest study they've done on anything. At the end of about 2 decades, they concluded clear evidence of cancerous tumors and DNA damage. Clear evidence is the highest of 5 categories they can assign. And just this past December, I think it was, the World Health Organization partially funded a study that says, high certainty, this causes cancer. DNA damage, which is the roadmap to grow a proper anything, this damages our DNA. Infertility, when I started reading the infertility studies, I saw that they took male human sperm and exposed it to a laptop with the antennas radiating, and it changed the DNA, it slowed the motility of the sperm, and it caused programmed cell death or apoptosis, which means it was killing the sperm, in 4 hours of exposure to the radiation from a laptop. We also have excellent studies on women and higher miscarriage rates, neurotoxicity. Dr. Hugh Taylor runs the OBGYN program at Yale Medical. He has done these rodent studies and showed that when you expose the pregnant mice to man-made radiofrequency radiation, when the pups were born, they were bouncing off the walls of the cage, much like a child with attention deficit or hyperactivity disorder, can't focus, not a care in the world. Dr. Martha Herbert founded the autism lab here right at Mass General Hospital. She's a Harvard pediatric neurologist, and she sees huge connections in the families in her care with autism, because we get to a tipping point where all these environmental exposures hit, and microwave radiation is a big one. Alzheimer's used to hit in our 80s or 90s. Now we see it in our 70s, 60s, 50s, 40s, 30s, and in rare cases, some people in their 20s. We cannot continue to pollute the environment of the brain and expect the outcomes that we once had. So, as I mentioned, most of this is censored in mainstream media, so we're very heartened when mainstream groups get funding to put a PhD on this and do the research and to get the information out. Some of you may know the Environmental Working Group because of their Clean 15 and Dirty Dozen fact sheets that come out every year for pesticides. As a mom, I always look to them to tell me what I should be buying organic. Well, now they have fact sheets on wireless radiation. So know your audience. They've got one on the neurotoxicity there. They've got one on children. So know your audience. If you think somebody is already, in step with EWG, bring up these fact sheets and share. Now, children are not just little adults. They are under construction. Their central nervous system, their immune system, and we are pulsating our kids with microwaves 24/7. Their skulls are thinner, so they are inch per inch absorbing more radiation into their brains than you and I, and their brains have a higher water content. So with great thanks to Dr. Om Gandhi, you can see the head modeling. The adult male, the little yellow part is, those things are turned sideways, but the little yellow part is the ear. And when you put a cell phone up to that gentleman's head, it radiates about a third of the brain. When you put it up to a 10-year-old child, it radiates about 2/3 of the brain. And on a 5-year-old child, it's radiating their entire brain. So we have a moral obligation, all of us in business, in industry, in municipal leadership, in our homes, in our schools, to protect our kids. So those are the long-term effects, and for years the industry would say, oh, there's no mechanism of harm identified in the literature, so let's keep doing what we're doing. Well, now we know cancer, now we know infertility, now we know neurotoxicity, and now we're going to look at a lot of symptoms that some people are experiencing perhaps in this room today or have loved ones. Please know that the Americans with Disabilities Act has long since recognized this, so we're not making it up. We just never hear about it. Insomnia. Well, now we know the mechanism of harm. When we sleep, because we are light beings, we operate off of a 24-hour circadian rhythm of light and dark. In the wee hours of darkness, the pineal gland is meant to release melatonin that regulates our sleep and helps to remove the toxins of the day through the bloodstream. Well, the brain can't differentiate between man-made light energy and natural light energy. So the brain's over there going, when's it gonna get dark? When's it gonna get dark? So I can release the melatonin. And that's where smart meters are a huge problem. They pulsate around the clock 24/7. And we can work on better solutions. We can hardwire these smart meters to the home. Chattanooga, Tennessee has already done it. Dr. Timothy Sheckley from the University of Colorado, I was in touch with him last month, and he is working on something with the acronym EMMA that would keep the radio frequency off, and then you can just bring in the signal through wires, and you don't need to have radio frequency at all. And I think the device that Dr. Sheckley is working on would mitigate the electromagnetic interference that's causing dirty electricity too. So there's solutions for everything, but industry would do well to start competing on true safety. That will give you a leg up, right? Headaches, stabbing, searing headaches, migraines, nosebleeds, ear bleeds, chronic fatigue. Well, we know another mechanism of harm. Does anybody know the candy Rolos? Remember that because it sounds like rouleau formation. And it's not too far off. Rolos are that stack of caramel chocolates, right? Well, our red blood cells are meant to be free-floating one by one and bringing oxygen to all of our systems and organs. When they are exposed to electromagnetic radiation, instead of these smooth oval rounds, they start looking like bottle caps, and then they start glomming together, and they can't make their way through our system, through all our tiny little vessels, clumped together. So rouleau formation is clumping our blood. It should flow like a nice glass of Burgundy, and instead it starts looking like ketchup under a microscope. Pain from unidentified sources. Skin abnormalities. Did you know we have little antennas in the surface of our skin? It's meant to do what, the crystals in the beaks of the birds and stuff are meant to do. These are our navigation pieces to tell us if it's too cold or too hot, to get in and take care of ourselves so we don't expire. And this radio frequency radiation causes, some people talk about the hot ear when they get off of a phone, right? That's causing a lot of this to happen. We also have heating, flushing, rashes, and I know Courtney's children experience the rashes as well. And then our big, beautiful electrical organs, the heart, the brain, the lungs. That's why we do EEGs and EKGs, to measure those electrical impulses. And when we overpower our system with man-made radiation, it can mess with that. It can cause your heartbeat to go too fast or too slow, or your blood sugar to go too high or low. Because we are bioelectrical chemical beings, and this is disrupting us. Cognitive impairment, anger, behavior issues. At the EMF medical conference, it just about broke my heart when they said, if we don't get ahead of this man-made radiation exposure, we can expect many more of these societal outbursts that we have seen, like the mass shootings. And I don't know about out here in the Berkshires, but after we sent our children home for a pandemic for 2 years with a wireless tablet and gave them no safety hygiene, in 1 week on the news in Boston, there were 3 different schools reporting that the kids had lost their minds and were beating their classmates with the tablet. And I mentioned that to a woman in my yoga class. She says, I work in Framingham High School, and one of my colleagues is out on disability because one of the boys beat the tar out of her with his lap. So this is happening. We can sit here and default to the FCC's way out of date public radiation exposure limits, or we can step up and protect our world. Anxiety and depression were at epidemic levels before the pandemic, and we are seeing suicidal ideation even among children like we have never seen. So we've got to stop radiating ourselves and our kids. World Electromagnetic Radiation Syndrome Day. I include this link because colleagues over in France started this a few years back. And every June, Courtney Gilardi and I and others, we bring in together people who are sick from this. And we say, I know it's really hard, but you've got 2 minutes to tell us your experience. So if you want to listen to 15 or 20 people and see if you recognize any of this, that's a good link to click on. So why don't we know? Well, I fell down the rabbit hole in 2012. Our schools became the first in the nation to do that sign in 2014. And then in 2015, Harvard Law School Center for Ethics came out with this free online 59-page report called Captured Agency: How the Federal Communications Commission is dominated by the industry it presumably regulates. So notice that they used a revolving door on the front page of their report. That's what most of our federal agencies have become, mouthpieces for industry. Things are starting to change, but they're not going to change fast enough to protect you and your home today. So when our Food and Drug Administration commissioned that $30 million study that found clear evidence of cancerous tumors and DNA damage, that should have triggered public policy to protect us all, to give our energy leaders the true facts to create products that really do protect us. But instead, Dr. Jeffrey Shuren was now in charge of the FDA at the time for radiological stuff. He went over to the FCC and said, don't worry about that study. Let's just keep doing what we're doing. And one might ask, what would ever possess Dr. Shuren to do that? And again, you don't even have to look very far, just go look. and you discover that his wife is a partner in a law firm that represents big tech, big agri, big pharma, big food. So there's no cavalry coming, you guys, which is why I'm so proud of you all for getting out here tonight to learn about this. You can go home and scream into your pillow. That's what I used to tell my kids on Saturday nights. Go scream into the pillow on the couch and then come back and let's figure it out. Unfortunately, these conflicts of interest go all the way to the top of the house at the World Health Organization. Back in 2011, they completed an assessment on radio frequency and determined it was a group 2B possible human carcinogen. And what was missing were the animal studies, and now we have those. So it should be upgraded. We know it is a carcinogen. So because of those, they reopened their investigation in recent years, but one wouldn't know that there's two groups that look into radio frequency at the WHO. One of them is all industry, and the other is actually scientists who are qualified through their life's work on this, but they're going with the industry folks once again. So that's all the bad news. Here's the good news. You don't have to be a sitting duck. We can teach you how to use your technology more safely. And as Courtney Gilardi shared with us, and as I've done in my own home, I don't have any wireless. And I will tell you that I have screaming fast technology, far more reliable. My data is not buckshot into the air to be captured by some hacker out on the street with a program to steal my data. When you run it back through cables, you are working your way towards safe technology. So on the back of your router, you have Ethernet ports. Just get a big long Ethernet cable, run it to wherever you use your technology. You can get a splitter or an Ethernet switch so you can plug in however many devices you have. Then just buy the little adapter dongle. And that's the first step for hardwiring. The second step is to go into each device and turn off the radio frequency radiation transmissions. And then the third step is to measure, because with the Internet of Things and 5G, the industry is forecasting that we will all have 200 wirelessly connected devices in our homes, pulsating this electropollution at us 24/7. And this is in everybody's homes, even our friends with Eversource. You know, you guys should be really concerned about this because it's in your house too. And what the science shows us is it's cumulative, as any toxin is, it's cumulative with dose. So you could just be feeling dandy today, but tonight might be when your body, your immune system raises the red flag and says, I can't do it anymore. And then you get this whole domino effect. So if you can prevent it, that's the wise way to go. Okay, so there are good things happening. I'm going to tell you a little bit about what's going on in the courts and a little bit about what's going on in public policy. Vermont, since 2012, has offered its citizens a no-fee opt-out, and I talked to somebody last week and they said, yeah, I called up, they came and replaced it the next day, no problem, no radiation, no fee. Massachusetts currently has 6 bills, and I want to extend my deep, deep gratitude to your Senator Paul Mark. He introduced a bill for me to protect the children from wireless radiation in schools. That got sent to study, unfortunately. And he also introduced a bill to strengthen our civil rights so those who are becoming ill with electromagnetic radiation syndrome can ask for reasonable accommodations when they're out and about in society. But for tonight, you should know that we have had a no-fee opt-out bill in the Massachusetts legislature for more than 10 years. In the Senate, Senator Mike Barrett is the chair of the Telecom, Utilities, and Energy Committee, and he listened to us testify. I actually bumped into him in the elevator and told him about that study that had just come out at the time from the World Health Organization saying high certainty this causes cancer. And when I testified before him, he said, make sure my office gets all that. So everything I'm telling you, I told them. And he went to his contact in industry and said, what do you think about this? He said, oh, don't do it, bad reasons economically. So they sent that bill to study. Fortunately, Jean Lemieux who runs the Massachusetts Association of the Chemically Injured, for the chemically injured, she went to her state rep, Estela Reyes, and introduced a sister bill this session. And that last week we found out did get voted favorably out, but they gutted the bill. They took away all the protections. They took away the right to have an analog meter that does not corrupt your home's electricity and that does not radiate. And by the way, I called Itron, which is one of the manufacturers. They can make anything that the customer wants. So if the customer is Eversource and they want to offer a pure analog device, they will make us one. So we wait to see which committee this bill is going to be sent to next. And they are saying that they're going to lob it over to the Department of Public Utilities to set a fee-based opt-out. And by the way, National Grid has had an opt-out for years and years. This is the first time Eversource is offering an opt-out. And I think it's in large part because we have been testifying before the Department of Public Utilities for over a decade. And we have built that public record. Yeah, it's all there. It's all in the public record. And they took away the analog option. They took away the protections from dirty electricity for us, our children, and our pets. And they took away any protections for people with electromagnetic radiation syndrome and other disabilities. And there's no protection for our privacy. So, our privacy. Opt-out fees and some feedback I've heard just in the last week. So as our friend from Eversource told us, here's what they're charging, here's what National Grid is charging. And I wanted to ask Eversource, so I opened up my bill last week and there were inserts in there, and you guys offer a whole bunch of discounts. So I think perhaps one solution is to talk to your company about offering these discounts with the smart meter program. You've already got the infrastructure in place. This is just new for you. And that's an easy pathway for you to take to give a break to the people who have lost their jobs because they can't be out in society because of radio frequency. Out in California, the opt-out fee is $10, and for low income it's $5, and all of it sunsets after 3 years. So just this week, I've gotten this feedback from different ratepayers around the state. There was no contact information provided in the letter that they mailed out. Nothing to contact. And I looked at my letter and verified that. Another said the installer showed up my door and I had to tell him that I've opted out, and he had his name on his work order. So they're not necessarily communicating properly with the installers. And then another one said she denied access. She didn't want that meter on her home, but she has this is a healthcare practitioner too. She has one of these RF meters and went to her neighbor's newly installed smart meter, and it flew over $2 million on that installation as well. Okay, so what can we do? The FCC has been sued for ignoring the science. 11,000 pages of evidence of harm entered into the public record. And when the judges were presented with 27 big fat binders of all of this, they looked at the FCC attorneys and said, so how did you decide that those 1996 public radiation exposure limits are still even relevant today? And they just went, the FDA said it was okay. So the court found the FCC guilty, and they remanded it or sent it back to them and said, you need to account, cancer aside, you need to account for children, the elderly, you need to account for what's happening to the birds and the bees and the trees, and you need to account for people who are injured or have an already compromised health system, because we can't handle this. That was actually on Friday the 13th of 2021, and the FCC has done nothing. And the way these things play out is you have to wait 4 or 5 years to go back and put more pressure on them. And that's where we are now. The Environmental Health Trust, Children's Health Defense, and others are part of that lawsuit, and they are going back to take the next legal steps. But again, This is going to take a long time, and you need to be protected today. You should also know that at the federal level, for the first time, they are acknowledging that radio frequency EMFs need to be addressed. If you look at page 7 of the Make America Healthy Again strategy report, this is on that page. So they are going to start. But again, who knows how long that might take. So there's no cavalry coming. Down in Chattanooga, Tennessee, they have already hardwired the smart meters to the premises, so you do not need radio frequency radiation to have a smart meter. Industry can step up and do better and start competing on safety. But for each of us, it's our civic duty to speak up to our legislators. That's how they get empowered, right? Citizens came to the town of Lee. They spoke to your wonderful, extraordinary select board. The select board investigated. They brought in citizens to bring additional information. And then they wrote letters to their legislators saying, we want a no-fee opt-out. Every one of us should be doing that. And we can come in. I was brought in to present to the select board too. So educate your neighbors. I do a free public education webinar every month. The next one will be April 29th from 6 to 8 p.m. on Zoom. And it's a 2-hour forum, and we do a live question and answer after we go through all of our facts. Dr. Beatrice Gollum is a medical doctor and an EMF researcher. She's out of the University of Southern California at San Diego. And she actually filed back in 2020 on the Massachusetts Department of Public Utilities, docket number 2069, her research. According to a survey we conducted, smart meters were the single most common trigger for people newly developing intolerance to non-ionizing radiation exposure. And I heard that again and again at the medical conference. When those smart meters go in, those doctors are getting a huge uptick in people presenting with microwave sickness. And there's more studies. This is another one out of Victoria, Australia, where people are describing the symptoms. So thank you. Again, join us. Free webinar. People come and learn a little bit and pluck up the courage and go make a change or two and then come back and learn a little bit more. But we're here to help you learn and to help you protect yourself and your loved ones. I do an update meeting on the third Wednesday of every month at noon. We have people all over the country from Canada joining us just to hear what's going on and to share what they're doing, like Lee, Massachusetts is doing in their own communities. So reach out with any questions, but I would be happy to take questions now if anyone wants to go up to the mic. Okay. With that, I am so very pleased. Okay. Did anybody have questions? That was just a quick.
Can you go back one slide to your email?
That's a loaded question. Let me see. I can give you my email. It's MA, the number 4, safetech@gmail.com. MA, the number 4, @safetech, TECH, Oh, there it is.
Yeah, sorry. It's important for, as Gordon had just reminded me, this is being recorded. All this information, the presentations will be on our website and available for the public so that everybody can rest easy. You don't need to copy this down, but thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. So I am so honored to introduce our next speaker. He came to us in a pinch. His name is Rex Funk, and funk in German means like radio or something along those lines. So it's quite coincidental that he found himself in this position. Do you want to come help pull up his slides?
Thank you, Cece. You're very welcome.
Hello, my name is Rex Funk. Here we go. Yeah. Higher. All right. How's this sound? So I just push the arrow. All right. So my name is Rex Funk. I live in Woodstock, New York, and CC asked me to come here, and I gladly agreed. I am the EMRS stands for Electromagnetic Radiation Specialist, and I was certified with the Building Biology Institute to do this kind of work, where I go into people's homes and measure the various types of EMFs and how it might be affecting them. I became what's known as electrohypersensitive, or now it's called EMR syndrome. In 2018 was when I kind of crossed that line and just started realizing I was reacting to various types of EMFs. And I proved it to myself because I was working as a carpenter in a house, and I never had Wi-Fi in my house because my wife never wanted it. And I just felt sick every time I was in this house, and I thought maybe it's the Wi-Fi, so I unplugged it, and suddenly I could work in the house again. So ever since then, I've been learning about how to reduce EMF exposure, and there are 4 different main types. Radio frequency is one of them, and all of them affect us differently, and symptoms overlap, and it's very, and everyone has their own kind of reactions to it. But so I went and pursued the Building Biology Institute certification, and my goal now is to do purposeful EMF mitigation in people's homes, and I really want to do a great job at it when I go to people's homes because I know how important it is. Here's my website, emfcheck.com, and yes, it's simply emfcheck.com. So emfcheck is my name of my business. So wireless radiation is one of the types of man-made EMFs that is bothersome for us because mainly it's not natural, and our bodies are used to less. It's mainly the pulses is what really bothers people so much. And so the smart meters are kind of unique compared to radio frequency. Radio frequency also uses pulses, but those pulses are what our bodies respond to so much because our cells and everything in our body is highly conductive, and it tries to adjust to the energy around us. So the pulses are very confusing because all of a sudden there's this high thing and then it'll go down, and they're also very short blips. So that's just one explanation of why smart meters might be more bothersome than other types of radiation. And so yeah, one of the effects that can happen when you have your smart meter on your house is it's called capacitive coupling, where it can resonate that same pulse onto the wires of the home, and it to some degree radiates from all the wires throughout the house. It's not as strong as what it is at the meter. Yeah, there have been many stories of fires and explosions, and sometimes that's linked to improper grounding, meaning probably was, there are cases where it was installed hastily and maybe the old meter socket was loose and it just didn't get the proper grounding connection, so the arcing may have led to fires, and that's, according to my research, that could be the cause of those fires. As has already been spoken about, the data harvesting and privacy issues are a big concern for people, and like Cece just mentioned, oh, sorry, to me it's loud. I have to get closer to the mic. There, it sounds like it's working now. So yeah, there are many stories of, like Cece mentioned, the sudden onset of EMR syndrome when these are installed. Jeremy Johnson did an excellent TED Talk. He's an engineer and a colleague of mine, and mentor also, and he, I highly recommend you go seek that out. You can just search it on the internet. And then Dr. Alexa McKnight also is another one you can look up. So the smart meter history is, we started with the pure analog meter, which is just spinning dials and gears, and it had to be read by somebody who comes by and reads it. And then the electromechanical meters they added a transmitter that was powered by a battery. And these didn't transmit regularly. They just would turn on as they were called to turn on. Next was the AMR, the automated meter reading, which has no mechanical parts, and it uses let's see. It is connected to the power wires, meaning that it's getting its electricity from that, and they generally have these switch mode power supplies in order to power them, which is changing the AC to DC. And it's like any circuit board. Your computers do it. All your chargers for your phones and things. It's the same kind of technology, but these cause what's known as dirty electricity, which is high frequency voltage spikes that also again ring on all of the wires throughout the home. So here, having it at the start of service makes it more of an issue generally, compared to an analog meter, which doesn't have that. And there were a few evolutions of the AMR meter, more broadcasting, and more infrastructure, and then they started communicating with each other also to get the signal to the main office. So now AMI is what we're talking about now. It's the advanced meter infrastructure, which is known as smart meters, and it has two-way communication where the data goes to the company, and then the company can also, like we've already heard, can turn off or start service. And so then we also have the non-broadcasting opt-out meter, which generally, depending what type of opt-out meter is offered, some of them will not have the FCC ID number, but it sounds like in this case they will, but the radio will be turned off as the presenter just told us. So here we go with, so how did we find out that smart meters are harmful is the question. And so were they carefully tested by the manufacturer? No. Were they carefully tested by regulator authorities? No. Was it from people voicing their illness to the doctors? Yes. Was it from people testifying about their illness to local governments? Yes. Was it from people responding to surveys with supporting details? Yes. Or from research identifying harmful aspects of some meters? Yes. So this is all just to, bring the point that these radio frequency pulses are considered negligible, and so it's assumed to be safe. But there's been so much anecdotal and documented harm that's still caused by these. And so this also speaks to the fact that the FCC guidelines are based on sort of dubious claims about heating effects, that would be the only possible biological effect. I don't know why they decided that, or on what grounds they said heating effects is the only concern. They're sort of comparing it to a microwave oven, but microwave ovens are similar frequencies that are used, like 2.4 gigahertz, but it's a much stronger thing. So yes, that can heat tissue, but at these intensities we're dealing with, it's much weaker. But there are many other biological effects, including opening the voltage-gated calcium channels inside our cells that cause the cells to take on too much calcium, and having the effect of what's the word for it? The oxidative stress that results in that is just, it causes all this mayhem inside the cells, and they have to try to recover, and they're just constantly bombarded by these challenges. All right, so this is a snapshot that my colleague Ken Gartner provided, and it's something he put together of what it looks like when the smart meter is pulsing. So I don't know if I can point at all. All right. So the green line on the bottom is a background radiation trace, and the yellow is, I think, I forget what exactly he said that one was. And the purple one on top is the peak hold of smart meter pulses. So over time, he was monitoring this, and we're looking at a frequency range that is where smart meters are active, and so these pulses are above that background range. And I don't know the specifics of what kind of environment he was in, how many smart meters were around, and what other sources were on, but it shows that there are a lot of different pulses happening at various ranges of frequencies and intensities. And then what you see at the bottom is the little white dashes. Those are the smart meter pulses, and that what's on the bottom is called the waterfall effect. So it's actually showing it over time, and it just it's just a way of demonstrating or being able to visualize what's going on. And I don't know how long he was running it for, but it's nice to see that, what's going on, to have a visual of it. Here's a list of 20 symptoms reported from smart meters, and it's also similar symptoms to other kinds of health effects people have experienced. Blood pressure elevation, heart palpitations, ear ringing, buzzing, tinnitus, eye pain, vision, cataracts, nausea, vomiting, fatigue, exhaustion, stress, anxiety, agitation, irritability. I don't have to read them all, but there's a whole list, and these, again, it varies for different people, so different people will have their own experience, and some people will feel nothing, and I acknowledge that as well. But I also think it's affecting all of us, and some people are just having a more severe reaction. So what happens in the home when there's a smart meter is we get the frequent radio frequency emanations in the home, and though they're weak, like I was saying, the nature of them is partly why it may be more bothersome than the Wi-Fi, for example, because there's such a sharp, strong pulse. And then there's the dirty electricity aspect that's also added to that. And so in Massachusetts, there are 10 different gas providers, there's 45 different electric companies, there's 300 water authorities, and they all have their own choices to make about what meters they want to use. So it's hard to, there's no one standard, and it's going to be different in every area. And let's see, just keep going here. So, okay, so what can we do? Well, a first option is to not do anything, and then we could keep vigilant and watch for signs and symptoms. And we can choose not to use the bedroom right next to the broadcasting meter. Sometimes there's some shielding, there's a canopy you can put over your bed in some cases. That's not a simple thing to do. It requires proper testing and considerations to do it right. We can ask for the opt-out meter and consider relocating it. It's always a good idea to have the electric meter 10, 25 feet away from the home in general. That's something I always recommend to clients. And offering to send them a photo once a month is a good option. And there may be a way you can shield it to some degree to protect your living space. You could consider trying not to use natural gas, and then you don't need a gas meter. And similar with water, you could potentially drill a well so you don't have that meter. And moving the pedestal into the yard. And then reducing dirty electricity can be achieved to some degree with some filters that absorb that excessive voltage spike issue, which is you can never fully remove it, but you can reduce it 50 to 75% depending how it goes. And then for apartment dwellers, it's more of a challenge always to deal with the smart meters that are in the building. And then I have a local success story, 2 of them from where I live in Woodstock, New York. We were fortunate to have a strong group who pushed for this started with really just putting a lot of pressure on our, there were just many complaints coming to the power company, which was called Central Hudson, or is called Central Hudson, and they decided to offer an opt-out meter. It wasn't analog, but there was an ongoing lawsuit that went for a long time trying to offer an analog, but we have the Public Service Commission in New York, and they actually forced the Central Hudson to remove their monthly fee that they began with. So now it's just a one-time application fee. And the other thing we had good success with was updating the zoning code to have a very strong wireless ordinance to limit the ability for the telecom companies to put small cells throughout the town. So there were a lot of restrictions, and they have to go through a lot of hoops to try to get something installed. So we're very fortunate to achieve that. And Andrew Campanelli was the lawyer that drafted our ordinance, and it was a pretty great accomplishment that we achieved there. So I was happy to be part of that. All right. So, okay, so here we are at the end, and here again is my contact information. I'd be happy to, answer any questions. Yeah, do you want to go to the microphone?
Is there a difference between the dirty electricity of the communicating and the non-communicating meters?
Generally, so is there a difference between the dirty electricity from the communicating and non-communicating meters? Well, it depends if it has the circuit board inside that, if it's an analog meter, it won't have dirty electricity issues. But any of the, like the one that's being offered here, that will still have the dirty electricity issues. Yeah.
So I have a question. So can you go to the microphone because this is being recorded? Oh, thank you.
It's wireless. Let's move it around.
Oh my God! What are the radio frequencies? I just want to know how much you give. Hi. So my name is Kathy. I live in Egremont, Massachusetts, and I guess the rollout of the smart meters are coming my way. So, but I have noticed in brand new houses, particularly the ones that are like far up on the hill, their electric meters are down by the road. It's like new construction idea. And one of the points here is to get your meter off the house.
Mm-hmm.
And my meter was put on the house in 1960. So the further away, I'm assuming is going to be just better. And I had actually my electric line run under the ground. So is it worth moving the meter off the house in order to kind of save the radio frequency and the dirty electricity?
Well, it will mainly help with the RF part of it.
Okay.
The dirty electricity will resonate on all the wires to some extent, just because it's sort of like, if you think of it, like dropping a pebble in a pond, it's going to ripple on everything. So, but the RF will do that to some degree too, the pulses. But keeping that further from you, the actual source of the burst, yeah, that the further the better, for sure. I mean, distance is our friend, so, in this regard.
Okay, and one more question about I have an analog meter,
Mm-hmm.
and I'd like to keep it. There has been suggestion that, put a lock under it, and maybe put a notice, don't touch it. I don't know if that'll work, but I'd like to keep the analog meter. Is that something? And I'm a National Grid customer. Is it worth, and I saw that there was lawsuits. Is it worth, or is there a strategy to, really push to keep the meter I have? Do you know?
I don't know about what you'll be able to accomplish, but I think it's sometimes it's just an individual thing, a battle to take on, and sometimes it's a community-wide thing, and usually it's always sometimes there's success, sometimes not. So
okay. Thank you. Oh, thank you.
Anybody else with any questions specifically for Rex or Cecilia or the Eversource? I would have came to you.
Oh, thank you. One quick question. Do you know if there's any pre- or post-market safety testing for smart meters?
I guess the answer would be no. I don't really know, but are you referring to like fires or the RF or what?
For any of it. For safety, mechanical, fire, electrical, or for RF. We were told by Environmental Health Sciences and Environmental Health Trust there has been no pre- or post-market safety testing. But I just wanted to know if anybody here and, our representative from Eversource, if perhaps they knew of any.
I see them shaking their heads no, so. Thank you. Anybody else before we...
Wondering if either of the last two presenters know of any efforts being made toward or any developments of safe housing for people with EMR syndrome?
So that is an excellent question. This is a new illness in our society that our housing authorities need to be made aware of and need to start making accommodations for. There's a woman in Massachusetts for Safe Technology by the name of Deb Chandler, and her dream is to build a tiny house village, a movable tiny house village in case a cell tower goes up next to it. But she's been doing an awful lot of research, so Travis, if you want to shoot me an email, I will put you in touch with Deb. Thank you.
I'm just curious how much you are aware of. Do the, so there's actually, sounds like there's two aspects about the meters that are harmful to, one is the radiation and the other is the electromagnetic interference or dirty electricity. And both of those have these sharp spikes that seem to, the pulses that harm the humans, but what about the plants and the forests and the trees? And because it seems to me that all the forests are just, there's so many fallen trees now. Every time I can't even stand it, so.
Yep, go ahead.
So some of you being here in the Berkshires know that there is a lawsuit happening over in Pittsfield and Courtney Gilardi's neighborhood. And one of the things that just crushed me was when I was watching meeting after meeting in their town, and one of the neighbors in Shacktown got up and said, I've been growing my own food for decades. And the first year that cell tower went up, we had almost no pollinators. And by the second summer, there were none. And he had to go out and hand pollinate all of his crop. So, yeah, we're big, they're little. And there's a deep body of science on this as much as there is on the human physiology.
Okay, so if there is all this science that shows that there's all this harm, okay? And if there's all this DPU and legislation that doesn't seem to serve us, it seems to me that we can just put forward, if Eversource isn't going to guarantee anything in writing, I don't know about that their meters do not give off any kind of electromagnetic frequency, or if they are given off, can you put it in writing that these frequencies are not harmful or do not create any physical, mental, or neurological issues to anyone? Or can Eversource take full responsibility for any and all damages that occur and give full compensation for injuries sustained from the equipment? Or that these meters pass extended overvoltage tests so there's no fires? Or that these meters and network could not be used to surveil and monitor homes and businesses and invade our privacy? In writing. And I would just like to suggest that the town of Lee consider to create bylaws stipulating that any technology installed in their town by utilities be shown to pass extended overvoltage tests, or to create a bylaw stipulating that no technology shall be installed in their town that can be used to collect data on men and women in their private domain without probable cause, supported by an oath and a search warrant like a normal Fourth Amendment. Or in 3, to create a bylaw stipulating that all utilities take full responsibility for any and all damages that occur and give full compensation for injuries sustained from their equipment. And maybe the town of Lee may be the first one to set forward, the power of the people in standing up to this overreach of corporate.
I just have a question for Eversource. How many households have opted out at this point in the state of Massachusetts?
I don't know the exact number off the top of my head, but it's less than 1% of the population that has received it.
So my household opted out, and a technician came anyways. So clearly there's a lack of communication happening with your MIV team, meter installation vendor team. And so I'm wondering, where can that data be verified? Because Eversource refused to send my household a letter recognizing that I had opted out.
So I'd say if we messed up one.
Oh, you guys messed up real big.
If we messed up, I take full accountability for that, so I'd love to get your information so I can look into what happened, because if a customer opts out, we want to honor that. We want to honor that choice 100%. So I apologize if we did in fact miss your opt-out.
You didn't, and there was no communication, no text, one letter. So I don't know if I'm supposed to believe the 1% or not, because I did the advocating for my household, and Eversource said to me on the phone, yes, and then proceeded to send someone to my house who I didn't know, that was not a contractor I hired, to do work unannounced on the infrastructure of my home, of my barn home. So I just want to know how many households had opted out. 1%. And we will get your info.
I wanted to address your question about shielding. You asked, is it possible to shield the smart meters? So the meter box that they're in already blocks at least 50% of it from coming into the house. Any metal, continuous metal plane will do that. It will reflect it, essentially. The meter box has little cracks in it, just that's how it's built, because it's not built for shielding. So, and radio frequency sneaks through all cracks that it can. So you will still get those emanations into the living space, but probably about half the strength. I've measured on the outside in front of the meter something like 2,000 microwatts per square meter, and then a foot away. And then inside about half of that. So at the same distance away. So, and the further you go into the house, the more it decreases. But if someone wanted to shield it even more, there are actually two aspects to it depending on how close you want to be to that. Like some people, it's on the other side of the bed, but you're better off getting about 3 feet away to do proper shielding, because you technically should be 3 wavelengths away in order to catch both the electric and the magnetic component of that wave. So it's a little challenging to do that in a bedroom if you have that.
I have a quick question. I don't know who this goes to, but with a smart meter, you were saying before, I asked kind of the same question, but how close to another house do you need, or away from a house do you need to be? Do you know what I mean? Like, if I'm more rural, how far away?
Cornelia lives on the top of a mountain. Far away from most other people. That's what you're getting at, right?
Yeah. So, like how close? I can't get it out.
You're wondering about the signal jump, right?
Yeah.
If she wants to be in the smart meter network, the AMI, but she lives far away from everybody else, is that going to affect her meter from bouncing the signal, right? Is that
Yeah.
We will install relays.
But that means more radiation.
Yeah, we install it at the end of the more radio signal to capture the first and relay it on.
That's horrific for me because of a person in my.
On your house, we install it as far away as we can to still pick up that signal, which might be several hundred feet, might be half a mile, might be more. It just depends on what the topography is.
Yes, there's someone in my home that I want to protect who has a condition. So what I'm saying is, how close usually is it usually to another house in order to have it work?
Like I said, I've seen cases where meters have been detected as much as half a mile away. It depends. People send engineers out with relays and determine the right location.
So you could
You may be, Cornelia, you may be all right.
Don't say where I live. Okay. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Gordon Bailey again. Just for Eversource, for you to filter back to whoever you have to talk to. As a select board member, and I know other select board members, have had complaints from our people about your subcontractors and their installation. From walking around, they have no idea where the meter is. They could have gone and knocked on a door. And instead, they went on somebody's wraparound porch, opened up gates that kept their dogs safe, and then were belligerent when the person just said, "Hey, who are you and what are you doing?" They had no ID on at that time, although we were guaranteed. And I think since then, things have stepped up with the IDs. But somebody needs to talk to the subcontractors that you guys have here in Lee about going to the door and asking where the meter is if they don't know, instead of walking around the property unannounced. That's not a good thing. You're lucky you're not living in other parts of the country where they wouldn't put up with that. And for a while, they just weren't wearing any kind of identification. So I think you need to do a better job at reaching out. I know this only has to do with the installation, and I'm straying from the RF frequencies and all that stuff. But we get the calls about your subcontractors who really need to clean it up a little bit if you're going to be around town. And everybody has said, well, you didn't tell me when you were coming. So I think that is, not that some people were fine with the meters going on, but it's like, well, wait a minute, you didn't tell me you were going to be here. I can't have you shut my meter off right now. So I think better communication skills on the part of your subcontractors would be helpful, and follow up by Eversource to make sure that kind of thing doesn't happen. That's all. So I won't thank you for coming. I'll let him finish up. But, it's just something you need to take back to your company. I mean, ultimately, you guys are responsible for all this. So thanks. That's it. And I have my other concerns I'll voice separately. Thank you.
Yeah, and thanks everybody for coming. I think we'll call that a close at 9:15. So thanks to our speakers for coming here, and I think they'll stick around if anybody wants to follow up with a question or contact info. So thank you again.